View from the Gutters, episode 63. Welcome to View from the Gutters, the comic book podcast where each episode we discuss a collected edition, trade paperback, or graphic novel, and then recommend and vote on the book for the next episode. Warning: the discussion portion of this show has massive spoilers for that book. On this episode, we discuss Batman: The Dark Knight Returns. And, to skip ahead to the recommendation section, skip to 20123. Alright, you guys ready?
Yes.
I'm ready. What episode is this?
64.
Who fucking cares?
63.
Let's go.
There's 63?
Let's go. I'm in your charge.
60...
It's 63. Let's go.
63.
I don't care. I'll put it there. I don't know why I ask at the beginning. I always derail us, like right when we're ready to go. I'm always like, hey, what episode is it?
We were really good
totally
about it for a really
relevant.
long time until last episode.
Yeah.
And then now we're totally fucked up.
And now I don't know why I ask, because you already heard the intro. You heard me go, View from the Gutters, episode 60, whatever.
It's true.
You know.
Did you forget between that time and this one?
Wait, are we going
Yeah,
now?
we're going now.
God damn it.
What?
No, you need to give me a good line.
We've got to go. Here's a good line for you. I'm Joe Preddy.
I said I'm Andrew Chard.
When did you say that?
Before we started rambling. You guys didn't jump. Yes, I did.
You said that before we came in the room.
No, back it up.
I threw that shit before I walked in the room.
Rewind this. At home, rewind it and listen to me be right.
It's true.
God damn it, I
You
hope I'm
have
right.
the power.
Oh, that's right. If I'm not right, I'm just going to edit in that I was right. So anyway, who are you, Toby?
There's just going to be a big blank edit where you're just like, Andrew Chard.
No, I'm not saying my name.
All right.
Fuck it.
Yeah. Who's next?
And I'm Cade Reynolds.
All right. And
So
welcome to the
that
show.
means by logical deduction, you can assume that the third person in the room is Kaylee,
It's
who's
Matt
a
McGinnis.
contributor to us.
No.
So wait.
That means you don't get paid this episode, Toby, because your name's not on it.
It's true.
No,
Wait,
I'm in the title credits. I get paid.
No, I took them.
Screen Actors
you
Guild
didn't
law.
say your name. We can't put you up there.
You don't get.
So okay,
the
hold on.
contracts that I read.
Serious question though.
Oh.
Is this 63?
It
Yes.
is 63.
I don't.
Because I thought it was 64 and I had something planned for the recommendation section. No, it's 63. Damn it.
You're just going to have to recommend what you got.
Yeah.
You can recommend the second thing in your pile there.
Oh, God.
Oh, God. Don't do it.
book for rating?
Not even I can defend that. Anyways,
right.
So I wanted to actually start us off with something
You don't get
because last week, as I talk continuously anyways,
I know it wouldn't stop you.
last week, yeah, right. Last week I pitched Dark Knight Returns, and I made a comparison that a reader pointed out was I compared Dark Knight Returns to Birth of a Nation.
It's a comparison you make a lot, which I've always thought was, it's fair because the point you're trying to make is...
And, yeah.
You may not agree with the subject matter, which a lot of people do not agree with the subject matter
for
of
one.
Birth of the Nation. Most people don't agree with the
subject matter of the Dark Knight Returns. And I wanted to elucidate on that a little bit because I had a listener comment on our Facebook page and bring up some incredible salient points, and he was very...
Well, he said that he told you're an idiot. Which
Yeah,
is true,
I mean, like...
you don't know what you're talking about, also true.
I meant it in a very specific context.
Yeah.
I did not take into account the fact that some people might find that offensive, and it's a valid thing to find it offensive. And
because the subject matter in Dark Knight Returns is not nearly...
It's not nearly... No, absolutely. But, Birth of a Nation is credited with the resurgence of the KKK in the southern states and just a bunch of bad shit there. And
There's some...
our listener had a very valid point, and I apologize, and I will work to find something a little bit less...
you need a better one.
Polarizing. Well, I thought maybe The Jazz Singer, which when it came out was kind of... huge because it had sound. The original Al Jolson.
Which jazz singer? No, but like who? Was it like Louis Armstrong? Ella Fitzgerald?
Anyways, why? This is like the fourth time you tried to derail me.
I had a lot of coffee.
Something that for the time was pretty revolutionary that we look back on now and go, okay, well, that was revolutionary. It was also very offensive because blackface is offensive. Yeah. Something more along those lines. But I wanted to...
I still don't think... Jumping ahead maybe a little bit, like... As much as you may not agree with the subject matter in The Dark Knight Returns, I don't find it nearly as offensive.
It's rereading it.
I don't find the subject matter.
I agree with you. It's not as. I mean, and I think
I find it controversial, but I don't find it like outright offensive to the way that people think today.
I think
it's a little out of time.
I find it offensive to my sensibilities, which I understand is not necessarily a mainstream perspective.
And I find that to be fair because I think that we would like to believe that, we live in Washington, the best state ever, and very forward-thinking liberal state. As far as we're concerned, this book is very hyper-conservative.
And I think a better comparison upon a reread, because it's been a while since I've read it, honestly, would probably be something like Star Wars, where it's not about the offensiveness of the content, it's about the content itself dates it.
Yeah.
But I wanted to say kudos to you, Lewis, for bringing it up. I think it's a hugely important issue because we want to be able to talk about these books. And, one of our big things is talking about shit that we find offensive and the rampant sexism and all kinds of bullshit on an editorial level that goes on in this medium that we love. And one of the things he said is, maybe I care about this more than real life. We sit in a fucking room at least once a week for fucking 2.5 hours to talk about this.
Some of us 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah, we are right there with you. This medium means a great deal to all of us. And we, by telling us shit, hey, when you made this comparison or when you said this, you didn't take into account this, this, and this, and I found that a little offensive.
Yeah.
That's how we get better at doing this.
I think that Lewis was doing a disservice to himself by saying that, or implying that this isn't real life, because I think that the media that we consume is a reflection of who we are and what we believe, both as individuals and as a society.
Absolutely.
And so this stuff can be incredibly important. Looking at and criticizing works of fiction really help us understand ourselves better and relate to the world.
Yeah, analyzing it is so important because I said it on, I think it was the ElfQuest episode, where I was I come from a family that's not exactly, super open-minded when it comes to, homosexuality or my parents aren't racist and homophobic, but they're not modern thinking, I would say.
Non-traditional lifestyles.
Yeah, they're a little old-fashioned, my parents. They're not with it. And I don't know where it comes from, my acceptance of this, but I truly believe that it is from fiction, from reading about the way that other people live their lives, makes you more accepting of people who are different than you.
Absolutely.
And the more you read and the more cultures and ideas you encounter, the more it makes you think about the world as a whole. So yes, this isn't real life, but this is media that people consume, and it affects the way they think.
And it reflects the way other people see real life.
That's part of the reason why I dislike this book as much as I do. And I recognize that it has a very significant role in the history and evolution of superheroes and comic books. But I would never recommend this to somebody as something to read and enjoy.
Well, it's funny, too, because it's on the top 5 of, almost every Batman.
It's on a bunch. I could not believe how many it was done.
It's basically if you have a comic book website that has made a top 5 Batman list of all time, this is almost always, number 2 or number 1. And I realize that is... I feel like that's a remnant of the 90s.
Yes, absolutely.
In the 90s... This was one of the only Batman stories you could really hold on that kind of pedestal. Yeah. But I think now that does a disservice to all of the other books that have come out since
Absolutely.
then. It's like saying that Ocarina of Time is the best Zelda game. Open the can of worms there.
Well, I was going to say that if you look at the greatest novels of the 20th century, Ulysses appears at the top, or at least very near the top of every single one of those lists. Yet I think that you would be very hard-pressed to find a large number of people who have actually read Ulysses. Just because something is recognized as significant doesn't mean that it's necessarily popular or something that people are going to read generally for enjoyment.
Well, we often say that the opposite is true. No matter how many people went and saw Transformers 3 or Batman Dark Knight Rises, doesn't make it a great
classic,
movie.
Yeah, or a great movie.
The box office numbers aside. However, this book did sell fucking hotcakes.
Yeah, dude, in 1986, this had a cover price of $2.95. That's fucking insane.
Over 80 pages, and no, it was 60 pages in issue?
They were the prestige
45.
format.
44, 45.
I'm pretty sure they were the prestige format, so they had the glossy paper.
The total
and everything.
page count is 220 or just under 200.
So I'm doing my best to remember, and as the best I can recall, when I was getting comics with my mom around this time, they were 75 cents.
I think they were between. Yeah. I mean, depending, but this was at least twice as much as like the.
Right, bigger, I'm trying to put that in context as best I can. I don't remember the exact cover price because over the time that I was collecting, between the time I was, let's say 6 and maybe 12, when I was a kid, the price ranged from like 75 cents up to I think $1.25.
Yeah, because I was reading some 90s comics and they're all about $1.25.
That would have been between about like 1987 and like 97, 98 through maybe 92, 94.
Yeah.
So like a 6-year period there.
Yeah. I've been rereading some Robin books and they're all $1.50 an issue, and that's from 93.
So that's 7 years
after the X-Men titles were as well. Yeah.
So selling for close to $3, that's a significant premium.
Yeah, and for the sales it had, it was pretty crazy.
They were nice prestige issues. You know, they each kind of told sort of a complete story in each one. Like, you should read all of them, but if you just read the first one, like, you could walk away from that, okay? And they were about twice the size and a little over twice the price.
Yeah.
Not too bad.
No. And I mean,
But they sold.
Yeah.
A lot of copies.
And I mean, I think that's fitting. This was the book that is credited with saving Batman.
Also, prestige books didn't have advertisements, did they? So they had a higher price tag to...
yeah, you're right. They don't have
Yeah, I think you are correct.
They're more like trade paperbacks where they don't have the ads in them.
Yeah, they were like trade paperbacks that weren't big enough to... They had a heavier stock cover, and they had glossy paper a lot of the time.
Well, they were called prestige for a reason. Like, they were nice.
And a lot of the Elseworlds came out in prestige
The
edition.
Doom That Came to Gotham, which was recommended on the show, was a 3-part prestige. A lot of Batman stuff did.
Got Gotham by Gaslight, which is fucking incredible.
Justice League The Nail and Another Nail, which need to be recommended on the podcast.
Funny that they don't do those anymore.
You're like the only other person I know that's read those.
I said that to you about Alias.
I mean, the trade paperback form has really kind of supplanted that because part of the thing with prestige stories is that they were telling kind of longer form stories.
Yeah, exactly.
Which has kind of been what comics generally have become, and we're just now starting to get the idea of original graphic novels.
Well, we had OGNs before, but I think the ongoing OGN series is something that's new, definitely new.
Well, I know that like Marvel just put out Avengers Endless Warfare maybe 6 or 8 months ago.
Yeah.
Which was a complete original graphic novel.
Spider-Man Family Matters. Or
that Business. Just came out like a week or two ago, which I haven't had a chance to read
yet. Really good.
So you see Marvel, and I think DC is doing some of them too.
Well, they have like Earth 1.
Right.
The ongoing graphic novels.
And I think Grant Morrison is going to be doing his Wonder Woman OGN finally. That was promised like 6 years ago or something like that. Like, it's been a while, but the big two are kind of experimenting with the format.
So before we go too much further with The Dark Knight, though, sorry to cut you off.
Oh no,
I think that it would behoove a lot of people to, if you've read this and this is your first time reading it and you're like, I don't get it. Like, I've read Court of Owls, I'm reading Modern Batman, like, I don't understand why this is, like, a big deal.
Yeah.
I think it's important to put books into context sometimes.
Absolutely.
So I always recommend that people read Crisis on Infinite Earths right before they read this.
Yeah.
Which, if you have never read Crisis on Infinite Earths, good luck. Go listen to that episode.
Yeah.
It's a dense motherfucker. But you could also go pick up some Batman issues from before this and see what it was like pre-Crisis for a Batman he's out in the daytime. He's hanging out with Superman. They're bros. They're on TV together.
Yeah.
They're in the public eye. He's showing up, much like in the 60s Batman TV show. Like, he shows up right in Commissioner Gordon's office. He doesn't sneak in through the window. He's not disappearing after he talks to him. They just run out the door.
That Adam West Batman is largely the public perception of Batman at this time.
Well, you had the Denny O'Neil run where he was already kind of getting a little bit darker in the 70s and kind of tackling a little bit more mature stories. So it wasn't straight...
Son of the Demon is a really good one that you should read.
It wasn't going straight from Adam West to this directly. No. There was a bridge, but you're right, Joe. The popular perception of him is very much,
I think,
the Silver Age incarnation where he and Batman are palling around in World's Finest comics.
Oh, yeah. In the daytime, and in this book they say, most people believe that the Batman is a myth because no one ever has a photograph of him.
Yeah.
Like, that's a big departure from pre-crisis
like
Batman, where he's got like pictures with the Justice League.
Yeah,
like he appears with JLA. Not JLI, but the JLA. Pre-crisis, like they would be on TV and stuff.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
They had their headquarters at Happy Harbor. Like it was a different time.
Yeah,
it absolutely was.
This was a very radical departure from the Batman that we had known up until that time. And it was also a very different kind of style of storytelling that you saw in mainstream comics.
Especially for mainstream superhero comics.
And I think it's a really great example to point to Crisis on Infinite Earths, where Batman is standing there talking to Robin, and Robin's like, we don't have powers. What can we do? And Batman's like, we can cheer them on and give them hope.
Yeah, we can give them our hope.
It's
like, what?
One of the funniest things in that book is Batman being like, let's give them hope, Robin. It's like, it's not really your shtick, is it?
Not anymore.
Not now, but no, back then.
I mean, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, even in the 90s, like I mentioned earlier, I've been rereading some 90s stuff, and Batman will turn to Tim Drake and be like, oh, I'm proud of you, son. Like, you did a good... And it's like, this Batman wouldn't... he does that, but he calls Robin soldier in this book, and that tells you a lot about how he feels about crime fighting. And I think that as a arc about a Batman who sees this as not just like, I would like to stop what happened to me, which is the original thesis of Batman essentially is like, I'm going to become Batman so that what happened to me, my parents dying, will never happen to anybody else.
Right.
Like, I'm going to protect the helpless. I'm going to make sure that shit doesn't go bad. And this is a Batman who is waging a war on crime. And the war on crime is a very 80s idea.
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
a phrase that was fucking everywhere during the Ronald Reagan
it was a
era.
Reagan phase. Reagan declared war on fucking everything. Yep. It worked really well, too.
War on drugs, war on crime, war on poverty.
Yeah, it was...
I guess the war on drugs goes back to Nixon, but...
Yeah.
Well, but, I mean, Reagan really you had Nancy out there going, just say no.
Yeah.
I mean, they were really
the 80s...
All is a part of the war on the middle class. Oh, well, no.
Yeah, the 80s were very much the crime rates in America were going up exponentially.
Yeah, you can really see this in Watchmen, too.
Yeah.
Like, we don't really necessarily recognize it today, like 20 years on, but in the very early 90s, like 92, 93, the crime rate, specifically the violent crime rate, like started dropping.
Oh,
yeah.
And
massively.
dropping and dropping, and it's gone down almost every year since then. If not every single year.
Yeah, I think so.
But looking at it from the perspective of where we were in the mid-'80s, like the urban centers, like the cities, were crumbling and decaying, and everybody was looking at society as this like degenerate thing where like at any moment like riots were going to break out and the race war would start, and we would all be consumed in a conflagration that would destroy America.
Well, you look at the sci-fi of that era and you have books like this Batman book, you have The Watchmen, you have Judge Dredd, you have RoboCop, you have like all sharing a very similar
dystopian.
Urban centers are the dystopia. Like they will be.
It's just dystopia.
They
like Fruitopia.
Yeah,
it's not a fruit utopia.
Yeah, it is.
It's a Fruitopia. It's a dystopia.
Yeah, I mean, like these will be places that are synonymous with crime.
Yeah,
and because of that, because of the Ronald Reagan era, who the president, I'm pretty sure in this is very heavily based on.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's like
that's
an
Ronnie.
Immortal Ronald
That's
Reagan.
Ray Gun Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, there's a lot of 80s characters in this book where when I read this as a kid, not knowing a lot of it, I was born in the late 80s, so I was not, I don't know who a lot of these people are except like as their modern incarnation, but I was like, now this time I read it, last time I read it was in 2002, I recognize like how big of a role the David Letterman played on the David, what's his name, the talk show host.
It's like
Endocrine.
Which I think might be a reference to an existing character in the DC universe.
Oh, really?
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, because a lot of the characters are like Lana Lang is a character from the DC universe.
Jimmy Olsen's reference. Selena Kyle's there.
James Olsen.
Yeah, sure, James.
That's what they call him.
Just keep telling that. Story, Jimmy.
Yeah. But
Great Caesars.
There's the Ronald Reagan president. There's just like a lot of very 80s references.
It's got a very 80s feel to it with what was going on with the house. It was the last leg of the Cold War. The nuclear arms race had been escalated to the point where, like, I think my generation was one of the last that actually lived under this kind of fear that there would actually be a nuclear war.
Yeah, I was young enough. Like, the Berlin Wall fell when I was, I think, in my last year of elementary school.
That was some crazy shit.
Wait,
man.
when did the wall fall? I thought it was in the 90s.
Yeah, it was 91.
Okay.
I was 9.
Yeah, and I was a little bit.
So I never quite got the existential fear of just nuclear Armageddon.
Yeah.
Right.
I was aware of the Soviet Union. I was kind of aware oh yeah, nuclear arms are bad. But I did not get that direct immediate sense of fear and paranoia that was there.
Well, even by my generation, war was something that was very distant, and my first kind of awareness of world conflicts was in Bosnia Herzegovina.
Right.
I think mine was Desert Storm.
Yeah, they gave us comics that they were giving Bosnian children that were Superman comics that were telling them not to go into minefields, basically.
Right.
And it was really surreal, but I remember reading those or looking at those in kindergarten because they weren't in English. But
right.
That was, but it's hard for us to, especially anyone younger than I am, which is 27, anyone younger than me, I think it's hard to recognize how much the crime rate made people afraid. There was definitely a fear of crime escalating to the point where the police force was irrelevant and we needed a robot cop.
Yeah, well, you can even see it in some things like the first Ninja Turtles movie, the live-action one. There was just this unstoppable crime wave.
Yeah, the Foot was definitely a fictionalized version of what was actually happening.
Yeah,
and White Flight was still an ongoing thing.
Oh, yeah.
Now we think of the inner city, gentrification, all the rich people moving in and buying up all the property. In the 70s and 80s, it was the opposite. All the white people were fleeing the inner cities for the suburbs.
Anyone that could afford it was running away.
Blighted wasteland where there was no money and no jobs and just lots and lots of crime.
And it's funny if you want to look at inner city economics now, a lot of what the problems we're having with hey, everybody's out in the suburbs where there's no jobs.
Yeah.
But the housing is cheap, so people still live there even though they're unemployed. A lot of those problems stem from the flight in the 70s,
the
80s
hollowing out of the urban core.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that's interesting. I think that context is important for this dystopian future.
That
being
completely.
Said, Joe.
Wait, no, I don't think we've talked about socioeconomics enough yet.
Let's do it. Welcome to Economics Cast.
Welcome to Economics 101.
Where guys who kind of know about economics will tell you what you should sort of know. It's good context. I don't think anything we said was horribly inaccurate. If it was, email us, contact View from the Gutters.
Yeah, exactly.
Let us know on our Facebook page. Joe, you pitched this book.
I did.
Why do you think we should talk about this?
So I read this book as an adult because I was not reading comic books when it came out, and it was one of those things that I was mainly, I think, like most kids in the 90s, I was reading Marvel books. There was the death of Superman and there was Nightfall, but it was all about the X-Men, and Image was just coming out and they were doing crazy shit. So I didn't read this until years later, until I was in my early 20s. And I was like, holy shit, this is incredible, right? This is the book that saved Batman, blah, blah, blah. And as I've read more Batman, and as I've read more comics in general, I've come to understand that I think this is a very, very important work, because the way Frank Miller and Klaus Janson and Lynn Varley portray it, like a 16-up page, that you don't see that anywhere. Frank Miller's art style, I think, is incredibly polarizing. And I think that
also Klaus Janson is very heavily
super dark.
The leading design on this, because you see Frank Miller's sketches in the special edition versions of this book. Batman is much thinner.
Yeah.
He's much more looking like a Batman Beyond type character, where in, with Klaus Janson's art, everything is like
super thick.
And Batman himself is just like, he's a
hulking. Everybody is hulking
wall.
in this.
Like,
even
the Joker is like very wide.
Yeah. Although I
found the colors by Lynn Varley like really interesting in this book, because correct me if I'm wrong, this is done with watercolors.
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, no, she
and
did
it gives it this kind of very weird, trippy, like unreal quality to it.
Yeah.
Like you're looking at the world through a lens that is not clear.
Which is what I like about... I mean, I really like that. I also like that when you initially see Batman, you see him in the blue and gray.
Yeah.
And then it's not until like the second installment, the second part 2, that you see him in the black and gray.
Well, I like that. That to me kind of makes me feel like time has gone by.
Absolutely.
Because like his costume has kind of been destroyed during the fight with the mutants.
Yeah.
And
he needed a new one.
And so he loses the yellow around the bat, and he goes to just the black bat on the gray, which later became the
standard
before he went to the all black in the mid 90s because of the Tim Burton movie.
Yeah. Also, for all you, I know for a fact that there's at least a couple people that are huge fans of this book. This book takes place on Earth 31.
Yeah, it is an Elseworld story.
It is. It is
one of my favorite Elseworld stories.
Yeah, I mean, going back over it, there's a lot of things that pin it to the 80s. The Therapist.
Oh, yeah.
What's his name? Bartholomew.
The Superman shirt.
Yeah.
And the no Batman.
The no Batman shirt.
Yeah.
So that's very indicative of the time in 80s. It was
he's portrayed as such an idiot. It tells you what
Frank Miller felt about that. Yeah. But I think there are some incredible characterizations here. I think there are some incredible moments with characters here. There's a moment where Gordon is talking about how Gotham has just gone to hell, and he's talking about the doorway where he's found, all these dead people, and he's talking about seeing everything he's seeing on his walk and how everything makes him think of crime and horror and murder and death. And
Gordon is a character that Frank Miller understands, I think, even better than Batman.
Absolutely, I agree with you completely.
Because this book is like... I think it's an amazing portrayal of a commissioner at the end of his not very successful police career who needed Batman, otherwise the city would be totally destroyed. And he knows it. Yeah. And he tries to pass some of that knowledge on to the next wave, but he's a dinosaur. No one's going to listen to him. And he feels that pressure. And also, when you read Year One, like, he portrays... That's a Gordon book. Like, if you want to read the Commissioner Gordon book, that is... the best portrayal, in my opinion, of Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah.
Like, it's Year One. So I think Frank Miller gets that police.
I agree.
I agree. Kind of character.
I think he may have been there. I think he's a little too close to Batman in this. I think that there are things that... I think there are moments that he wants to ram home so solidly that he maybe dwells a little too hard on. My favorite parts are... and one thing I appreciate him for is that this is not... I think a lot of people want to make this yelly, screamy Chris Nolan Batman, and it's not.
No.
In fact, when he's doing his thing, he's not fucking saying anything, right? Like,
he's thinking.
Yeah.
He's like, it reminds me a lot of like this, how they portrayed Robert Downey Jr. as Sherlock Holmes.
Yes.
Like, he's just running this constant, like, okay, and then I do this, and then I do this, and then I do this.
What's next?
What keeps coming up in his mind is like, this is harder than it should be. I don't remember it being this hard.
Yeah.
I'm already tired. Why am I winded now? And it just like continually hammering home to like,
I'm old.
He's old and he shouldn't fucking be out there.
The one thing that I think he fucking nails...
Yeah, exactly.
The one thing I think he nails about Batman, absolutely, is Bruce's internal monologue, where he's saying, lucky old man, stupid, slow old man.
Yeah.
Because I can hear that, like, in a lot of... I mean, we see that in Venom, where he's like, I wasn't fast enough, I wasn't strong enough. And that's him in his, like, 20s, you know? Yeah. So this, I do think, is... we've seen this
like
before.
The Batman that makes mistakes.
Absolutely.
And this is not only a Batman that makes mistakes, but that goes, yep, that was a mistake. I fucked up. And like that happens over and over again.
Yeah.
Not him, not now, not this. It's a good thing I brought this, otherwise I'd be fine. Like, he can survive a little bit on muscle memory and luck, and without both of those, like firing on all cylinders.
He's
like he's dead in this book. Like a lot of times.
Absolutely.
Without Robin, he knows that. I think Robin is. We'll touch on Robin later, but without Robin, he dies.
Yeah.
In this book several times. So
I can't remember who told him. Somebody actually, I think it might have been Alan Moore, that said Robin has to be a girl. And
really?
Frank Miller was like, okay, yeah. Actually,
because Frank Miller doesn't like Robin. Like, as a concept, he thinks it's silly. And so I can feel him kind of playing with that idea in this a little bit. But
I think...
you can feel him playing with it a lot more in Asbar.
That's true.
So,
which felt like an Asbar.
Okay.
It felt like an Asbar.
Anyway, Cade.
I've actually been reading Aspire lately.
You know what? It's not as bad as everyone says.
I was told that if you read it as if it is somebody parroting Frank Miller from writing in the style of Frank Miller, that it's actually great, but it's Jim Lee's pencils that I can't get away from that just kill it for me.
Anyway, Cade.
Yes.
This is not the first time you've read this, correct?
Oh God, no.
Okay.
This is like my third or fourth.
How did you feel reading it this time?
Okay, well, I should start off that I went into it remembering it a lot worse than it was. And part of that is just because my internal conflicts with some of the things that Frank Miller does.
Yeah.
And, I love the guy because he's written some of my favorite stories.
Yeah.
The first Sin City book is one of my favorite comic books of ever.
Yeah.
So I went into it, I was just like, okay, well, I'm going to read it for the podcast because I haven't read it in a while. I remember that it was kind of bad, but I ended up liking it. I was like, I still saw some of the things that I didn't like about it. Mm-hmm. Particularly some of the dialogue I don't think really fits. He's trying to build some of the characters in two different ways.
Any particular characters that feel just really inconsistent, or just across the whole book?
I guess it's just that usually the first things you hear a character say will put a portrait into your mind of okay, so this is kind of where the character is coming from. And then they will go 180 on that later in the book. Mm-hmm. And it can throw you off sometimes. But then again, that is kind of part of the time. People don't like Batman to begin with, and then they do like Batman.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, the book doesn't do a great job of portraying how much time has passed.
Yeah.
But time has definitely passed because, the torch has been passed from one commissioner to another at some point, and, there's definitely time going by. Robin has definitely been, not Robin for 2 days.
Some time has passed, but not a whole lot.
I think it's about
a few weeks or a month.
I think at the beginning they say that Gordon is going to retire at the end of the month, and the end of the book is him stepping down as commissioner.
No,
he retires in the second.
Yeah,
after the second issue.
Yeah,
one of the issues had started off, and he said, "I've been retired for 3 weeks now," and it's been the same.
I think it's a couple months. I think
so. Maybe a couple months.
It's not a year.
No,
it's 18 years.
It's exactly 87 days.
Yeah.
Oh, but what I was going to say is a lot of the moments in this book, I feel, are good Batman moments.
Yeah.
When you think about modern Batman, it's those moments.
Yeah, it's definitely influenced the way people think about Batman.
Yeah.
Pretty heavily. Any particular examples of Batman being sweet modern Batman?
When he finds the bunny.
When you say him being sweet, it actually brought up something that I wanted to talk about specifically, and that is Batman as a father figure.
Yeah.
Because, you can tell he really loves Carrie. And, in the scene where he puts his hand on her shoulder and she turns around and he hugs her, he's being her dad.
Yeah. Well, she has a hippie flake of a dad.
Yeah. And it brings home, like, he's been somewhat of a father figure to every Robin he's ever had.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And that is something that people don't often think about when they think of gritty Batman. They don't think of a father figure Batman.
Yeah.
Especially considering, like, how dark Batman is.
Well, it's something that I feel like has really let me down with Batman and Robin's relationship ever since Tim Drake left. Because the relationship that he had with his actual son, Damian, was very odd. And then when he dies and they replace him with Dick Grayson, and then Damian, that relationship is really interesting, but it's not a father-son relationship. It's a very different relationship.
I just feel like I have to point out that in the moment that Kate was talking about where he puts his hand on Carrie's shoulder and she turns around and hugs him, he is buck-fucking naked in that scene. Yeah. And that has always bothered me a little bit because I felt like there was a really inappropriate sexual dynamic between the two of them.
I think he might be touching on the implied... The dynamic that people have often brought up between Robin and Batman as like a implied sexual relationship.
Well, I feel like there's more to it here, especially because he made her a girl, and I think it touches on some of the stuff that people got on Robert Heinlein about later on his career with kind of the dynamic between like the older, strong paternal figure and like the young, nubile girl that is incredibly problematic.
Yeah.
I'm reminded of Leon the Professional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a...
Although that's like not even quite as bad because he's middle-aged versus being like in his 50s or 60s.
Yeah. I mean, still...
Like, I mean, I'm talking about the patriarch figure here.
Yeah. And there is a... I mean, that is a genre of fiction in and of itself.
Yeah.
Like the young... Oh, I don't know what's going on in the world, girl and or boy. And the older male figure that's like, I'm going to show you the ropes. And it's like, okay, this is not something I'd like to read. Personally, personally, that's not for me.
Just gonna.
It may float some people's boats. Doesn't. But I agree with Toby. Like that brings up a lot of. I was realizing it a lot more this time I was reading it. I was like, is he implying like, is there actual sexual? Is there anything going on, or is it just implied as a nod at the fact that there used to be this idea that people would bring up about there?
And I had that problem running throughout this book, that there's moment after moment where I read it ambiguously, and I'm like, does he intend for that to be ambiguous? Is he being sarcastic, or is he just being completely straight and just throwing out all of this incredibly creepy shit?
I have a hard time because the way I interpret the ending of the book, I'm not sure if that was Frank Miller's intent. So there's a lot of this where it's like,
okay, now I'm interested. What is that?
Well, I would love to read some of Frank Miller's like writings on the book because I have a feeling that his thought process behind the Bruce Wayne Superman fight is a lot different than mine, and I think we'll get to that later. But
well, that wasn't even in the original.
We're gonna get to that.
But like the very end, where he's taking the sons of the Batman and the one girl like down into the Bat caves. Further than they've ever been. Like, it feels very Galt's Gulch to me.
I always have a hard time, like, thinking about Carrie as, like, a female character in this book because she's very kind of cardboard. I mean, she's pretty wooden as a character. And so, like, her gender feels sort of irrelevant in the story, which I feel like is a weakness of the writing. But I really like the Sons of the Batman arc in this, and I really like it as an end to Batman's War on Crime arc. Like, I feel like it's the logical next step in Batman's War on Crime to not just be like, I am a warrior in the War on Crime, to I am now a general in the War on Crime, and I have troops.
See, it was just one more incredibly problematic thing for me, but I can get directly into that point if you want.
Do you want to jump to the end, or you want to start with the beginning? Because I want to hear what you think about this.
Well, I want to start with this point since this is where I am right now, and it can tie into something that I would talk about at the very beginning, which is you start out with this like entire class of young person, like all of these teenagers that are immediately branded as mutants. Like they are these inhuman creatures that are not deserving of like mercy or human compassion. Like it's incredibly othering, just like straight out of the gates.
Yep.
And they go through this process where he's just like utterly just beating the shit out of them over and over again. And again, there's this very paternalistic element to it where like the youth is his enemy as like the strong white male figure.
Yeah.
And he beats them and he breaks them
to his will.
To his will.
Yeah.
Where like he is the one guiding figure, the like center of their entire, like their ideology never changes. He just replaces the mutant leader with himself.
Right.
Like
well, he replaces their idea. He does replace some of their ideas. He replaces the fact that like they're out to cause mischief. And he replaces that. He gives them a purpose, which is very much how, like, old white people talk about poor young kids. Is like, give them a purpose in life.
Yeah.
Make them feel like they're part of society. You know, like, he's taking them and going, hey, you guys are just aimlessly robbing people. Which is like, maybe they like aimlessly, right? Maybe they don't feel like that's aimless, but you feel like it's aimless because it goes against how you live your life. They're directly attacking you as a rich person.
And you're like, you're not even looking for a second at like the surrounding causes,
right.
You know, the poverty and the societal decay and all of these other things. It's, oh, these punk kids are murderers and rapists and they're just these horrible mutants and we got to beat them into shape.
And now they are going and beating up other kids and turning them towards your cause
and cutting up dudes' fingers.
It's really odd.
Yeah, but there's just so many problematic things with this. It
feels like the arc of a man who has decided to wage a war on crime using only his fists, which is a problem I have with this book, because this is a very early 80s future in which we have not decided that we will invent cell phones, internet, computer. Like, there's fucking nothing there's no technology.
The big technology in this is the voice activated helicopter.
He has a gun for a grappling hook. Like, he doesn't even have like the Bruce Timm 90s cool grappling. Like, his technology is like bad military gear.
Yeah,
he's got like flashbangs and gas grenade. Like, thermite. He's very much like thermite. He's very much like a Punisher in this. But he doesn't kill people with it. But that to me is like, he's a millionaire, but he's a billionaire. Like, he has tons and tons and tons of money, and the way he's chosen to fight the economic problems of a city is with his fist, literally the worst tool for the job.
Yeah, and I would quibble with the question of whether or not he kills people. And there are three things that I will point to. The last one is the Joker, where he breaks his neck, quote unquote, and only paralyzes him, so the Joker has to off himself the last little bit, which I felt was shitty writing, just straight up. Like, it was having it both ways. It's like the Batman breaks the Joker's neck, but he doesn't quite kill him. The Joker kills himself.
I like the idea.
We can't tarnish Batman completely.
I like the idea of Joker making it look like Batman kills him, though. Like, I think that's a cool concept. Is like, this is Joker's last joke, because it's like, hot, now you're a murderer.
And I'll grant you that.
But I do feel like it could have been written better.
The second one, going backwards, is in the fight in the junkyard where he's got the bat tank.
Yeah. And he's shooting rounds.
And he's shooting them with a fucking, like, machine gun.
Well, the machine gun has fake bullets.
Right. And there's a caption that says, rubber bullets. Second caption, I promise. Yeah. And that's one of those moments where I'm like, Frank Miller, are you being sarcastic or not? Like, are those rubber bullets? And even if they are, like, you can die from a rubber bullet shot from, like, a handheld rifle or a shotgun.
Beanbag shotguns have killed people before.
Right. Like, are you really suggesting that Batman isn't killing these people?
They're non-lethal in big quotes.
They're non-lethal for the purposes of the comic book, because at the end of the comic book he says he's kept his vow, and there's no reason for him to lie about that.
But the first of the three is when he busts in on those mutants who have kidnapped that kid, and he
chewing gum air.
Yeah, he busts through the wall, RoboCop style.
It's before the pager.
Oh yeah,
it's a few.
I've got it before. Here we go. He busts through the wall, grabs the Gatling gun, like belt-fed machine gun that the mutant has, and shoots the other mutant. And you just see the scene where she's like falling backwards and there's a blood splatter on the wall behind her. And it's like, he's shooting from the hip with a machine gun. And I'll grant you that because he's Batman, even though he never uses guns, maybe he's good enough not to hit that kid.
Well,
but are you honestly suggesting that he, like, just barely wounded her?
You know, I feel like this is the suspension of disbelief that you have when you believe that characters like Superman and Batman do not kill hard and fast line. Because you look at movies like the Chris Nolan Batman Begins, where he's fucking running over cars with a tank. It's like, no, he didn't kill anybody. No, he's fucking ran over a cop car with people inside of it.
But, you know, I feel like suspension of disbelief only goes so far. Like, the author has to work a little bit to maintain that suspension of disbelief.
I
agree.
Like,
you know, in G.I. Joe, you have to have the little guy with the parachute coming down after they blow up his plane.
Until Jeff Winger shoots him down.
Like, I have to...
Yeah, okay.
I mean, like, I have to believe that every time that Superman throws a villain through a building...
He's got X-ray vision. He can see where people are in the building. He can throw them just right.
You know, that's
the thing.
Like,
you can maintain that suspension of disbelief, but after a certain point, when he's doing one after the other of these things, it's like, really? Like, I'm willing to suspend my belief up to a point, but you're making it hard.
Well, also, in the fight with Superman, he's like, I don't know how depowered he is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And yet still he's shooting rockets and kryptonite. Like, he's not pulling his punches.
No,
Superman is very clearly pulling his punches.
For
the entirety of the book.
Yeah.
However, Batman is like, oh, no, we're just going to fucking... He'll survive. I know it because I'm Batman. I know.
So... I have a question to Toby, because I'm thinking about this, and I don't necessarily agree. I would like to know when he beats the crap out of all the mutant kids, because there are two scenes where he faces them. When he fights the King of the Mutants initially, where he doesn't lay a hand on anybody but the Mutant King. They're like trying to blow up the Batmobile, and they're taking out themselves essentially. And then when he actually fights and beats the Mutant King, and he doesn't fight anybody else there either.
Throughout the entire beginning montage where he's being Batman again, he's beating the crap out of people, and he goes and he attacks the mutants who kidnap that kid. Like, it's implied throughout the story that, like, he is attacking the mutants.
So my question is,
he's waging a war on them.
There's tons of it off panel because the newscasters are telling you a majority of the
things
story.
Are going on, but these are all, and this is just me playing devil's advocate, these are all people in the commission of a crime. How is that different from normal Batman? Because he's not shown or spoken about taking out anybody that isn't trying to rape, rob, steal, kidnap.
I think that it's the implication that these are all teenagers.
Well, and also that they make them second-class citizens by calling them mutants.
I mean, I agree. I agree with the overall point you're making that this is largely a socioeconomic problem that Batman is choosing to beat the crap out of. And in more modern iterations of Batman, that's dealt with head on because Bruce Wayne has a foundation set up. He gives very readily to charity. He's very involved in the upkeep of Gotham.
Also, he electrocutes a mutant at some point.
He electrocutes mutants. That's not...
That feeds directly what I was talking to in terms of the suspension of disbelief.
Right.
Like, you know, part of you goes like, well, if Batman really wanted to solve all these problems, why wouldn't he do these things? And so the writer says, in sort of an offhand way, because this is a superhero story, like, oh, well, he has foundations and charities, and, like, you see him, like, finding some of the criminals he beats up and, like, giving them jobs in Wayne corporations.
Yeah.
If he thinks, like, I can put this person back onto a better path. And that feeds into the suspension of disbelief. But you don't see any of that here. All you see is him waging an incredibly brutal war against an underclass of children.
Oh, yeah.
This is I mean, this is Frank Miller, who wants to show Batman winning by sheer force of will.
And I think that feeds into my larger overall point, which is that this is a very macho, paternalistic, like very conservative perspective on the Batman, where you have this class of intellectuals and elitists and politicians who are hypocritical and limp-wristed and ineffectual. And you have this entire system of laws and therapists and lawyers and all of these things in place that coddle and weaken the American spirit. And then you have the Batman, who is this old, he's this old grizzled man, but he's strong and he has a strong heart and he's going to break all the rules and do exactly what's needed and make the hard choices to set us back on the true path.
I do feel like it's not they're not really counter arguments, but 2 points that brings up in my mind is the president never really seems like he's that intelligent. Like, he's never really played off as like this, intellectual class of person.
Well, he's playing Ronald Reagan, who wasn't an intellectual.
Right.
He was a fucking actor.
Exactly. Like,
well, there's
he feels like a puppet. He feels like a puppet to me.
Yeah.
Controlled, and also I feel like the pass the buck, cover your own ass mentality of the 80s and early 90s is like hyper present in this book.
It absolutely is.
There's a scene that's just like the president tells the mayor, who tells the governor, who tells the mayor, who tells the police chief. There is so much of it's now out of my hands, not my problem, which is very much a product of the 80s and 90s.
So I'm not sure if the page numbers are exactly the same across all the editions. I have the 10th anniversary edition.
Yeah.
And it's on page 45, and it's just one of the talking heads that are omnipresent, which bugged the crap out of me, just as a stylistic choice.
Yeah.
Like, there's way too much fucking narration in this book. But one of the two talking heads is this, smug-looking white guy who says, makes me sick. We must treat the socially misoriented with rehabilitative methods. We must patiently realign their, excuse me? No, I'd never live in the city. And here's somebody saying we should be working to rehabilitate the city. Try and fix things through ways other than violence. But then he's painted as this hypocritical, no, I'd never fucking live in that, den of crime and sin.
It very much points out the point fingers from the outside without getting involved kind of mentality that happens, and I think that never went away.
No,
I think there's a lot of.
that kind of hypocrisy is a very real kind of hypocrisy.
It is, and I would agree with you. We're not that the perspective of anybody who's lobbying for anything other than direct violence as this just terrible monster. I mean, especially the therapist character who first enables Two-Face and then enables the Joker to kill just hundreds of people.
Yeah.
This is a running theme throughout the book.
There's also
painting people in this way.
The guy at the end, and I mean, I guess this kind of feeds into it maybe in a different way, but there's a guy at the end where there's the guy in the neck brace saying, yeah, I did what I had to. Yeah, I had a gun and I used it to get food because that was important. And then you had the other guy going, we were all doing it. We all did horrible, horrible things. And I'm not
And then the main thesis of this book that I disagree with, just the one thing that really rubs me the wrong way is the idea that the American people need an icon to rally behind. Makes me really kind of upset, because it's it takes all of the agency away from every human being in this book, and is they're dumb, mindless, stupid rats until Batman comes along and says stop looting, and then they're all oh, okay.
Yeah, that drove me insane.
Because if you ever, and even this is modern things that have happened, but if you've looked at crisis in America, like 9/11, like the Boston City bombing, no Batman has to come out and say, do the right thing. The people that were there, the people that went into the towers to help other people get out with no thought of self-preservation, they went in because it was the right thing to do.
Oh, absolutely.
They were, there are heroes in the world that don't need a inspiration.
Yeah,
there are plenty of people.
That Steve Buscemi worked on 9/11 because he was a firefighter, and he didn't tell anybody, and he worked 12 hours on that first day, and then he just left and went home.
Yeah,
and he was in New York City on the day, and he just showed up at a fire station saying, I used to be a fireman, how can I help? And they just put him right to work.
There are tons and tons of people that were but it proves to me that despite how cynical and old I am and think the future's gone to shit, everybody's an a-hole and everything sucks. When it comes
with their pad phones and their eye galaxies.
This book feels very much like a cynical man who's given up on the future. Because he has no faith in the people of America without a Batman figure.
Consider that it only got darker from here. And the fact that he's a guy that glorifies Sparta and the culture of Sparta and having absolutely no fucking historical understanding of the slave society that Sparta was. I mean,
Sparta had some good stuff going for it, though. Like the women of Sparta were actually treated pretty considerably better than
as long as they weren't slave women. But I mean that goes without saying.
There are thousands of cultures who have owned slaves.
No, absolutely,
and it has never once been the answer.
It speaks to Frank Miller, and Frank Miller writes in a very specific context. Frank Miller's all about the glorification of violence. I mean, outside of like Daredevil and Year One, which were far more editorial oversight. Mm-hmm. Dark Knight Returns.
The 80s and 90s were all about the glorification of violence.
Absolutely.
Like, it's not just Frank Miller.
And that's
it's books like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, RoboCop, Power Rangers.
If you don't know,
everything
Savage Dragon,
everything in the 90s was might makes right.
Oh, absolutely.
Almost everything.
I agree with you completely. It was like the battle
cry of a generation.
And I think that there was a part of that looked at this and just saw the surface detail of like, oh, Batman's being really violent. That's awesome. We can do that too. But just like utterly missed everything else that was going on in this. And I think that the same thing happened with Watchmen.
I agree.
They saw the violence and the darkness and the grittiness and the corruption and just all these surface details and completely missed everything else that was going on in that story.
Because books like this, you can see, in my mind, where writers would take ideas from this and turn them into things like Transmetropolitan.
Yeah.
Where there's like an idea of a future that doesn't have to be like this, but there are elements of that society that draw heavily on the ideas presented in books like this and Watchmen. Like this definitely inspired writers in a good way too.
Oh, absolutely.
It just took a longer period of time. And it seems like that happens a lot, where you have something that's very revolutionary, and people take the surface details and they run with that, and they miss the point. And you have like a generation of things that are like following immediately in its wake that are kind of copying it, and then it takes like a generation. I mean, not a human generation, but like a generation of comics or whatever. 10 years or more.
We still see that when you look at newer comics these days that are. Like 10 years ago, we had Ultimate Spider-Man come out, and it was a very successful launch. And these days, you have people recreating that.
Yeah, it's not. It's not the new #1 that makes people want to read a comic like that. Like Superman Earth 1 came out, and it sold out on Amazon, like the ongoing graphic novel series, because DC promised them an ongoing graphic novel series, and it sold out on Amazon. And DC, in my mind, took that not to mean, oh, people want an ongoing graphic novel series, because they've yet to follow up on that, really. They had a second one, but that's it. And they were like, oh, people want a new origin for Superman, reboot the whole universe. Like, I feel like they massively missed the point.
But what I'm trying to get at is that it's not the people who are working in the industry at the time who look at that and go, that was cool, I wanted to do that too.
Right.
It's the kid who's reading that and who is inspired by it, and then 10 or 15 years later becomes a comics writer and goes, I want to take the spirit of this thing that I loved when I was younger, and I want to do it better.
Yeah.
Well, that's what Jeff Johns did.
All my favorite Silver Age superheroes.
And I think it took from the mid-'80s until like the mid-2000s, like 20 years, for those ideas to really metastatize through the creative system of comics, where we got a generation of characters, of superheroes who were three-dimensional and realistic and felt real, who had that gritty element where it wasn't just 90s like extreme violence, I'm a fucktard.
Well, I
highly disagree with that, because I'm reading books from the early 90s that draw on this very heavily in a positive way. Like, they're very much portraying Bruce as a father figure. They're very much, and not in a creepy way. And they're very much like creating the idea of the Bat family and Batman kind of policing Gotham in a way that's like, yes, I approve of you being here, but no, I don't approve of you because you don't follow the rules that, it's taking a lot of those ideas. It's taking a lot of the ideas of like, you can solve problems without just punching them. It's taking characters like Wally West and showing what being part of the 90s me first generation is, that's bad. Like they show that really early on in the Flash
because
run.
Both Flash, Green Lantern are happening at this time, and they're not dark. I mean,
early 90s you've got a new Green Lantern, you've got Kyle Rayner, you've got Hal Jordan, you've got new Robin with Tim Drake, you've got the JLI, you've got a lot of stuff at DC.
Well, yeah, coming up to that, you have Justice League International, which was fucking hilarious. I mean,
and also, looked at society pretty heavily because a lot of the villains in that were like Russia and businessmen and
Now, of course, you also had Marvel at this time making X-Men into a soap opera, which it's kind of always been. But I mean, you had a much more Marvel was doing much more flashier things, and then of course, in the mid-90s, you have Image, which was all like
all flash,
tits and violence and giant guns.
I think that the mainstream books that were selling well 100% back up Toby's point, though.
Like
the number one selling books, the books that were selling like hundreds of thousands of copies or millions of copies, were books that took what The Dark Knight did and missed the point. Books like Spawn and
just a little bit.
Bloods.
Funnily enough, Frank Miller wrote for Spawn in the first year.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people wrote for Spawn in the first year.
Well, it had 4 issues in a row. You had Neil Gaiman, Frank Miller, Dave Sims, and Alan Moore.
Yeah.
Which is
I also think
crazy.
that this draws really heavily on ideas presented in 2000 AD and like the British invasion in comics had seeped into Frank Miller's mind at this point too. It feels a little bit like a Judge Dredd world.
This came out when the whole DC British invasion launched.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, a little, but the British invasion, I would recount to like the early 80s when guys like Alan Moore first started writing for DC.
Yeah.
Even before.
I think my main problem with the book is that this book, I think like a lot of classics, gets put up on a pedestal along with Watchmen as one of the best comics ever written. And I'm like, we have far, far surpassed Dark Knight Returns. Yeah. Is it important to the era from which it came? Absolutely. Is it important to the medium? Fuck yes, it is. Is it one of the best Batman stories? It's not even in my top 20.
And definitely for people that are like just getting into Batman.
Yeah, it's like
I would not hand them this.
No,
this is not a Batman that I think portrays the Batman that I would like.
This is
when somebody's like, I've been reading Batman for a while. Like I've read The Killing Joke. Like I've read all of these great Batman stories.
The classics, Long Halloween, and
like
all the ones that we give them.
Now, like I understand modern Batman. I want to understand Batman's origins.
Well,
I want to know where he came from.
I want to read Crisis era Batman.
This is an important step on the path of Batman's evolution.
In the same way,
but it is a transient step.
Yep,
it's in the same way that you would not have somebody come up to you and go, "Hey, I really kind of want to get into literature. What should I read?" You wouldn't fucking hand them Moby Dick or Ulysses. You would hand them something a little bit more approachable, something that they could read. Maybe
something a little more fitting with modern ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. Something that was not
just
so
like
foreign, like Twilight or Harry Potter.
Yeah.
But this is a book I recommend only to people that want to read comic books in the same way that we read comic books.
I might take some flack for this, but I would compare it to The Lord of the Rings. And I like The Lord of the Rings more than I like this. I don't have nearly as many problems with it, even though it does have problematic elements. But when you actually sit down and read The Lord of the Rings, it's kind of boring. I mean, Tolkien totally is an incredible world builder, but
it was a different time.
Well, it's not even that it was a different time. It's that he wasn't the best storyteller. Those books are overly long and contain way too much walking from place to place. But he was inventing the prototype of what fantasy ultimately became. Yeah. And people have taken those ideas and they've done much better things with them since then.
Absolutely.
And if somebody came to me and said, I like fantasy, what should I read? I wouldn't say, so we'll start with The Lord of the Rings. I would
say The Hobbit.
The Hobbit, sure.
But that was young adult. That was written in kind of as young adult fiction.
Well, it was written for parents to read to their children as bedtime stories. Like it is a series of isolated adventures.
Right.
But like the Lord of the Rings is incredibly important. If you're trying to understand fantasy, I think it's something you definitely need to read. But it's not the first thing that I would recommend to somebody, or even the second.
And even much like this, like fantasy for a long time was, overrun with Lord of the Rings clones.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And to the detriment of fantasy as a whole.
Like, I think it's great that we're finally like moving past Tolkienian fiction or fantasy.
Absolutely.
But it's still something that's very important for people to read eventually.
Yeah.
And in the same sense, like this set up a lot of what we consider to be modern Batman stories with this end year one. And it's something incredibly important to read, but it's not the first thing that I would recommend to somebody.
Not.
I have not read this since 2002. I don't feel like I missed anything by not reading it until now. I saw something. Now that I know more about the DC universe, I noticed more things this time.
Yeah.
I noticed some, like, kind of odd future a lot of odd future predictions if you want to talk about it, like the death of
Jason
Todd. Not in there. Airplanes crashing into buildings in a downtown area. You have the writer's strike on television, and James Olsen, the producer of television, going, "Hey, that doesn't matter that there's no writers anymore. Well, people still watch this shit." Like, that is like a very futuristic look at how Frank Miller sees TV, is just like devoid of any
writers
writing.
Had strikes around the same time as this. Yeah. I think it's the second season of Star Trek: The Next Generation. They have a clip episode, and it's the only clip episode in the entire series because there was a writer's strike at that time.
I mean, like, the strikes happen, but the reaction that James Olsen has to me feels very modern. Where it's like, you don't need writers when everything that you're putting out is fucking reality television. People still watch this
that's absolutely
bullshit.
True. I think that, to me, it is not on my list of top Batman works to recommend, and it's not on my list of top Frank Miller things to recommend.
No.
I mean, I would much prefer if you want to see, well, what's the big deal about Frank Miller? I'd say, well, get your hands on his Daredevil stuff, which is, I think, some of the best Daredevil stuff in the modern age.
Read Elektra.
Elektra's good. I would say read Sin City because there's problematic elements to it, but it's also...
Artistically,
it's fucking incredible.
Worth killing for.
And it's very much a product of, I think he's much more successful with it because it's largely an exploration of the tropes of noir fiction and pulp fiction, and it's done writ large. I mean, ultra noir. And I think it's really well. And I actually like the first 3 trades. It's Sin City, A Dame to Kill For, and That Yellow Bastard.
That Yellow Bastard's great.
Those are fucking full of problematic things. Frank Miller does not like women very much, it seems, sometimes.
I'm really bugged by the fact that Selena Kyle was turned into a prostitute.
In this and in Year One.
Yeah. I was confused by that because he makes the chief of police a woman, too, which is kind of...
Which Gordon immediately is like, a woman? Pff, fuck that.
That's absolutely... and then that's absolutely true. Frank Miller... He's got some issues with women.
Yeah.
A lot of prostitutes in Frank Miller writing. All the women in fucking Sin City are prostitutes. They're all prostitutes.
That being said, I think that as someone who has created, I don't know, that calling this art may be offensive to some people, but this is art. I mean, this is art. And like artists of the past, like their ideals and ideas about how society works, social standings of specific peoples, that may be awful and terrible. Like what they think about women or people of different races and colors and creeds and nationalities may be terrible, but their art lives a lot longer than they do.
Absolutely.
And you can sort of write off the fact that they were shitty people. Yeah. And go, well, at least their art's really good.
There is one moment later on where he punches the new commissioner and takes her gun. And he's like, cute gun.
Yeah.
And then later he's like, good, the gun didn't get wet. I'll need it, provided I can fit my finger in the trigger guard.
Yeah.
And if you haven't read a lot of older fiction, there used to be kind of the trope of, oh, this is a lady gun.
Oh, yeah. It's in James Bond.
This is a tiny little gun for a girl.
They call the Walther a lady gun, don't they?
No, they call the Beretta his original gun.
Original gun.
The Beretta, they call it a lady's gun.
Yeah.
So there is a very strong undercurrent in this and in Frank Miller's writing in general of misogyny against women.
Absolutely.
And that is something I have a problem with.
Misogyny implies that it's against women. I'm sorry, I had to say
Joe,
something.
don't make me misogyny you.
That sounds pretty hot, actually.
Yeah, that's actually...
Wow. I'm a little aroused.
I'm going to record
right
that later. It'll be on the website.
Just beep it out, and they'll be like, "What the fuck did he even say?"
One thing I did want to touch on, though, you were mentioning your favorite Batman books, like top 20, and you said this wouldn't be on it.
Don't ask me to name all 20. I can't.
No, but that brought to mind, what would my top 20 be? And one of the first ones is a recent read for me, which was Tower of Babel.
Yeah.
And
which Toby loved, of course.
I
just love the Batman derp face.
I don't consider that to be a Batman story as much as I consider it to be a JLA story.
I consider it a Batman story.
I mean,
but
I would consider that
where
Batman
I was going with that
primarily.
is that Batman would not have existed without this book.
No, there's a lot of Batman.
There's a lot. I mean,
this was hugely influential on DC
if
as a
only,
company,
like,
if not just for Batman.
Because this is not just a transformation for Batman; it's a transformation for Gotham as well.
Oh yeah,
and like I think that's a hugely important thing because
the Gotham you see in Hush, as compared to the Metropolis that you see in Hush, is a direct lineage of this idea.
Oh, absolutely.
And of like, what is it in Invincible? The city that's permanently night. That is a reference to Gotham.
Midnight City.
City. Like that is a direct result of this.
Absolutely.
As is the character Darkwing.
Well,
there have been so many Batman copies throughout history.
The fact that one is a killer specifically, I think you can...
Well, fucking Midnighter.
Yeah.
I mean, Midnighter isn't Batman that's like, all we can do now is give them hope, Robin.
Yeah.
It's like...
I've got some guns.
Something tells me to stop working on the leg. I ignore it. That's fucking Midnighter, except he's already ripped off the fucking leg. I'm a man with a very particular set of skills. Yeah, I mean...
Wolf Puncher.
I think the thing is, though, is that this book is not just influential in the fact that it changed Batman. It's influential in the art style and what he was doing. Like Frank Miller's pencils
that fucking lightning bolt with Batman, iconic.
Yes,
I will grant you that the art in this book is really good. I'm definitely not a fan of the 16-panel grid.
No, that's a little
people
much.
don't do 9-panel grids anymore for the most part, and that's because it's too fucking much. And 16 panels is way too goddamn much.
Yeah.
And the thing that I noticed reading through that this time that I hadn't noticed previously is that he never deviates from that 16-panel grid.
No.
Like, he'll combine certain panels, but you can still see, like, there'll be a little pop-up box that's in exactly the right place on that grid. Like, every single page, 16-panel grid.
Well, you have...
Look at that. I mean, you guys can't see what I'm holding up.
No, I can see it up, and that's one of the better ones.
Our listeners...
It's a splash page, but basically there are a couple panels from the 16-panel grid.
No. I'm not saying that to fight. No, this is a 16-panel.
Yeah.
Look, I'm talking about...
No, there's some incredibly great artwork in here, and very, very, very strong panels. And Joe's holding up the one where Batman is like flying down with like one of his knees up, very ballet pose. But it's a really strong panel. There's strong Superman panels in here too.
In that gray and blue.
I was sitting next to Joe as I was reading this earlier today, and I pointed out like the first scene with Superman where you don't even see him. It's an exterior shot of the White House, and it zooms in on a close-up of the flag.
Yeah.
And it transitions until the flag like blends into the Superman as it slowly pans away just enough for you to recognize what it is that it's showing you.
So good.
That was really well done.
Love the introduction of Superman in this book.
Yeah.
You go from that to he's faster than a speeding bullet as he flies by the paper stand, and then he stops a train as he's more powerful than they fucking do the whole thing. Yeah. And they do not deviate from that. You hear the first one, you're like, oh, that's a clever nod. And you hear the second one, you're like, are they really going to do all of these? And they do every single one.
And I have problems with Superman's representation as like the government's water boy.
This is where I'm getting to, where it's like, I don't know Frank Miller's intention, because personally I have a very different opinion of like what's happening in those scenes than what's actually being told to you. I think there's a lot that's implied.
Well, there's narration from Superman later where he's like, you don't know what they're capable of. They like all the time that you were laughing at them, they were making plans to destroy us.
Yeah.
Like, I much got the sense that this is a Superman who has been defeated.
But I don't get the fact that he's been defeated. Because he's implying, he's like, if you had played along, they would have let us go. They would have let us do what we did. Like, he realizes that they are a means to an end of him saving people. And also, Superman has not fucking aged a day in this book.
No, he hasn't.
You realize that Superman is going to outlive any government. Like, he is biding his time. He is like, I'm here to save people. This government lets me save people. I'm stopping wars. I'm stopping atomic bombs from destroying cities. I'm flying through Gotham really quickly, saving some people. Like, he is still a hero. Everything he does in this book is heroic. He's in no way the government's lapdog, and his fact is he's not invading other countries, which you see him do in other Elseworld stories. Yeah. You don't see him doing, like, just flying into some foreign governor's mansion with his laser eyes lit up and being like, you need to stop now. Like, he is not a weapon of the government.
And he's a shield me to something I want to talk about. The fight at the end.
Oh, yeah.
Because I hate to do this. This is gonna upset people, but it has to be said.
It's obvious.
This is obvious. Superman loses that fight.
Before you even start, this is my favorite part of this story is Superman is he needs to fight. They need to talk.
Yes.
How does he get in contact with Bruce the second time? After they've had this sweet horse time together, which I love.
Best friends horsey playtime.
Biffle horseplay. He fucking carves into the sidewalk in flaming letters. Where?
I love it.
You know where those lasers could have ended up?
Anywhere.
Right in the top of goddamn Bruce's head.
Absolutely.
The reason that Batman wins this fight is because he's not fighting.
Because Superman's fucking
not
lets him. And he's not even at full power.
Well, it doesn't matter. He's not fighting.
Bruce win.
He doesn't fight through the whole thing.
Yeah, he really doesn't.
He shows up and he's like, hey, Bruce, we have to talk. And Bruce fucking electrocutes him.
He pulls one punch and it breaks 3 of Bruce's ribs.
He rips his helmet off and punches him.
The whole fucking time he's doing it, he says, stop, Bruce, you're going to kill yourself.
Yeah, your heart. Because even when he's getting kryptonited, he's like, Bruce, you're gonna die.
Yeah, I don't care how long you've been reading comics. I don't care what Superman we're talking about. I don't care who you are. Superman wins.
No, I disagree with you 100%.
I mean, wait. In a conflict of that nature, where they're going toe-to-toe, Superman wins.
Superman dies because he lets Bruce win. Superman would never kill Bruce. That's why I agree with you. Batman beats Superman.
At the end of the day, this wasn't the fight between Batman and Superman. No. Batman walked into this fight intending to lose.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. He took a drug that was going to stop his heart. Before he even went to the fight. That was the preordained ending that he had planned.
Joe, you get very hung up over the fact that Batman wins or Superman wins in this fight. It's not a fight. Well, no, I agree with Toby. It's a non-contest.
Because I'm saying that specifically. I have a proviso to that. I'm saying that specifically because
you're mad at fanboys because fanboys are always like Batman wins over Superman. No one gives a shit. They're fucking fake characters. Does My Little Pony beat Garfield? No one fucking cares. No one goddamn cares.
Of course a horse beats a cat.
No one cares.
You're trying to pick an argument with me that I don't fucking care about, and it's not going to happen.
No one cares.
The proviso
I don't care if
you
think Batman beats Superman or Superman beats Batman. Whatever it is, you're wrong. Because you know who wins? The writer. That's who wins. The writer just fucking decides. The point is, this isn't a fight. And the movie, I think, does a disservice to this fight scene by making it a fight scene. Superman goes to talk to Batman because the president says so, but he does it with the pure implication of going, he's not going to listen. I'll go talk to him, but I'm not going to stop him. Bruce is being a hero.
I'm nodding along here.
Yeah, Bruce is being a hero. He's telling the president what the president wants to hear. This is why I very much feel like this... I can't tell if Frank Miller is implying this or if this is actually what's going on. Because does Frank Miller really believe that Superman is a lapdog of the president? Because I don't
know either.
I don't think so. When I read this, I don't see him as a lapdog of the president. I see him as someone who's like, yeah, Mr. President, it's okay. Like telling a child, oh yeah, we'll get you that toy you want, and getting Superman him a cheaper toy.
My reading of it has always been that he's the government's water boy. Mm-hmm. Whether he's a lapdog of the government, he's doing what the president tells him to. But I definitely see what you're saying, and I agree that, again, that this is something that's ambiguous in Miller's writing, where it's not clear whether he's being sarcastic or straight.
Exactly.
Writes Superman so fucking tenderly in the scenes that he's in, and he gives Superman a voice, and he doesn't have to.
Oh, Superman's
and that's the point. That's just before Chard started telling me that nobody cares. The point I was building to was that you've missed the point.
Absolutely.
This is not about a fight between Batman and Superman any more than in Hush, it's between a fight about Superman and Batman.
Right.
This is about Batman knows that there is no fucking way Superman is actually going to fight him.
Yeah.
He fucking knows it. In the same way that he knows it in Hush.
Well, he would be dead if Superman actually
Yeah, I mean, that's it.
And
that's what I'm saying.
Because they're friends, which is really interesting about this book.
Yes.
Is he makes Batman and Superman friends still.
And
they have horsey hangout
best
time.
friend horsey fun
they
time.
call each other Bruce and Clark, something that they don't do for a long time after this. Like, people in the late 80s, early 90s make Batman and Superman distrust each other. It takes a long time before they have that world's finest trusting relationship again. And this book, they are friends.
My read on this is the friction between them is caused by Superman looking at the situation and going, I can do the most good here. We can do the most good here. And Batman going, in true Batman fashion, I will do this my way.
I don't need
and
you.
my way only.
Yeah.
I don't need anybody else. Which is, I think, probably the thing that Frank Miller gets most right about Batman.
I love his plan. I love the fact that he's like, I'm gonna stop my heart because I can do that with drugs and or just because I'm meditate or whatever, and that it fails. Like, it doesn't work properly. He gets the timing wrong. Again, Batman makes a mistake. Well, Superman hears his heart restart, looks at Carrie, and fucking winks at her, and then flies away because he doesn't want to stop Bruce.
I've often wondered if that is a problem on Bruce's part, or if he just knows that Clark will keep his secret.
Well, he says it. He says, like, I mistimed it.
Oh, well.
It's like a direct line in his dialogue. He's like, I fucked the timing up.
You know what bugs me about that whole thing, though? He kills Alfred.
Yeah, that is...
Miller, I mean.
Miller does kill Alfred. But
in like this really shitty way. Like, he blew up the mansion, and he's burning all the computers.
Cool
like, well, it's not that he was doing all this cool stuff. It's that, Bruce was, like, he was burning down the Batman. Like, he's like, I'm done with the Batman, I'm moving forward. And part of being done with the Batman... Miller's like, okay, well, we got to get rid of Alfred too,
which is sad.
And was stupid.
It is sad.
Yeah.
I don't agree with the way he did it, but
I was also like, how is Alfred even alive?
Yeah,
at the beginning?
Alfred's immortal. He takes the Infinity Formula.
He's like Ant-Man.
He is Nick Fury in this universe.
Yeah. He's got monthly meetings with like Nick Fury and Captain America, where they're like, hey, what's going on? How you doing? They fought together in World War II.
Goddamn ever.
I mean, I'm pretty sure Alfred was in World War II.
He was. He was in the RAF. That's why he's such a... Nobody talks about this, but this is why Alfred is such a badass. He was a medic.
Surgeon,
and he was... I mean, he's an army-trained medic, and he was also fought in World War II.
Infinity
He's not
Formula.
one to be fucked with.
Yeah.
There's a Batman the Animated Series where somebody kidnaps him and he kicks some ass. It's great. I think it's the Penguin.
He has the nuclear launch... Like, half the nuclear launch code with this other guy, and they get kidnapped by the Red Claw. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, Alfred is great, and it is a little disappointing that he dies off screen.
Well, he dies on panel,
he dies on panel.
He just, like, has a heart attack or something. Like, why does he die?
He's just standing there in the snow, and he's just like, okay, now I'm dead.
It's totally unnecessary. I don't like that part either.
I'm with you. I'm with you guys.
I like Alfred, and he's cool in this book, too.
I think I like Alfred more than Batman.
Well, wasn't there a period, like, right when Batman died where Alfred was leading the Outsiders?
Yes. And I was always upset that they didn't change the title to Alfred and the Outsiders.
That would have been amazing.
Yeah. I think more people would have read that book. Got canceled very soon after that because it was Batman
get a chance
and
to
the
read
Outsiders. But people were like, Batman's dead. Why would I read that? If they had changed the title to Alfred and the Outsiders, I think some people would have been like, wait, what? And like,
let's do this. Let's do this right now.
Yeah, I need to see this.
And he had
picture Alfred
like tactical gear on, and he was wearing a beret. It looked cool from the preview images.
I picture him. I'm sure that it was not this, but what I really want is him using like the bat lines and like a silver server tray and attacking people El Kabong style. So just like whoosh, boom.
By the way, on a previous episode, we couldn't remember El Kabong's alternate name.
Yeah.
It's Quick Draw McGraw.
That's Quick Draw McGraw. Did I not say that?
No, we couldn't. Nobody could remember what it was.
I kept thinking it was what the fuck is it?
It was something like it wasn't Sancho Panza.
That's his sidekick.
Yeah.
Well, that's Don Quixote.
Yeah, Don Quixote. You kept saying Don something or other. It was Quick Draw McGraw.
There was another like
that's been bothering me ever since we talked about
horse dog character. My knowledge of Hanna-Barbera cartoons clearly is not very good. It was well before my time.
That's okay.
It was well before my time. I spent a lot more time watching Johnny Bravo and Dexter's Lab.
That's probably a better use of your time.
This was not even close to as vitriolic as I believed it would be.
That being said, I want to go around and everybody say your favorite moment of this book. Because I know I know we all have a moment that we were like...
No. Like, I got to flip through the book.
You have fucking 42 Post-it notes coming out of that book. One of those has to be a good moment.
I have 14 Post-it notes. I actually tweeted a picture of it.
I think I'll start because this is super fucking obvious.
Yeah. Go for it,
One-Armed Green Arrow.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
I love it. I love the moment where Carrie's like... The only two things we know about Carrie's dad is we know he's a hippie because of two moments. Because he's like, they're like, remember Chicago, babe? And he was like, I was high for all of Chicago. Or like, he doesn't remember Chicago. And two, when Green Arrow's talking, Carrie's like, he sounds like my dad. And Green Arrow's totally a hippie.
So I have a really old... my copy of this collects Batman Year One, Santa Claus Dead or Alive.
Oh yeah,
and The Dark Knight Returns. It's from 1989, and it has the original page numbering on the trades or on the issues. But mine is the panel I held up before, where he is like jumping down from the rooftops, and his hands are out, and he's like. He is basically just coming into land.
That's the first time you see Batman in this book.
It's right after the cop cars. They're chasing the guys that have just hit the bank. Yep. And the young
page
cop...
34 in my edition.
Yeah.
It's issue 1, so that should be the right page number.
The younger cop is like, what's that? And the older cop looks over and he goes... we're in for a show.
Yeah.
And then, like, I think that's on the next page or the next couple pages, you see him just kind of, like, sailing down from the rooftops to land on this car and take these guys out.
He's got his cape flies over the dashboard. It's like such classic Batman moments.
Fucking looks incredible in that moment. And also, it is super classic
that's
Batman.
That's referenced in Chris Nolan's Batman. Something that I forgot to fucking mention.
That's the best part of Dark Knight.
There's a massive amount of stuff that goes straight from this into Chris Nolan's Batman.
Yep.
And I think it's kind of why he missed the point on Batman as
Batman. Absolutely.
He took this Batman. The moments in this Batman are great, but he took the idea of this Batman and made him Batman instead of the Batman from... Long Halloween, which he also references really heavily, but it's not that Batman.
And I think that might be part of the reason why I don't like Chris Nolan's Batman at all.
Is it doesn't feel like our Batman.
It doesn't feel right.
My feelings on Chris Nolan's Batmans are well documented on our website.
But, I mean, honestly, it doesn't feel like our Batman, because we grew up reading the Batman that comes after this that isn't like this.
I mean, even Miller understood the fact that the reason he wears the bat getup is to be scary. He doesn't run around screaming at people because he doesn't need to.
Yeah.
Because that's not scary. A guy screaming at you wearing a bat suit is not as scary as a very quietly intense man that's holding you out of...
That's why my favorite fucking scene in Batman Begins is when the guy's like walking through the aisles of storage containers.
Yes,
and he's like, where are you? And he does the fucking Bruce Willis whisper, and he's like, here. And it's like, wah!
Yes,
that's the Batman. That's the fucking quiet... terrifying Batman that I love.
And that's as loud as she should ever be.
Okay, I came up with something that I liked in this book. And I had it marked as something that bothered me, but I'm still willing to admit that it's a cool moment. These pages don't have page numbers on them, but it's when Superman is like off fighting the war or whatever.
Yeah.
He's like, they'll kill us if they can, Bruce. Every year they grow smaller. Every year they hate us more. And then you turn the page and it's a full page spread of Superman in this like glorious like Superman pose. And he's like, we must not remind them that giants walk the earth.
Oh, yeah.
And it's this kind of like glittering moment shining through, because this is really not a superhero story in any dimension. And there's just this like, it's like the clouds break.
Yeah.
And there's this one moment shining through of the superhero world.
Superman represents the superhero in this book. And I love that. I feel like that's why I feel like Superman's biding his time. Mm-hmm. Because he's like, look, I know that I could do more. I'm going to wait until this whole like nuclear scare is gone. He's waiting for the quote unquote Reagan administration to go away, for people to catch up with his mindset of like, we can be better than this as a people. Like, Superman has always represented the hope of the people, I think. So, no, I love that moment. Anytime he's also, though, Superman is kind of a murderer in this book, unless you choose to believe that all of the planes are drones, because he's flying through fucking planes and they're exploding, but whatever.
And like it bothers me, this idea of like we have to pretend that we're not like, you know, we must not let them know that giants roam the earth or whatever it was. Must not remind them that giants walk the earth. Like that line bothers me on an existential level, but it's a cool moment.
Yeah, I mean, because really, how tall is Superman? Like 6 foot? That's not a giant.
I think he's taller than that.
Maybe 6'1".
Well, they do say that Batman's 12 feet tall in this.
That's true. Batman, in little known fact, he is 12 feet tall.
Long shins.
That's true. Wonder Woman,
hard to find
right around 11 feet tall. Superman, maybe 6'2".
I like the idea only because it reminds me of the fact that like there are often people in fiction and literature that are very forward thinking. They're way ahead of their time. And if they were to be as outspoken as they were about society, like we see countless times throughout history, those people being put to death for their ideas, being too controversial.
I think you'd have a hard time putting Superman to death.
No, I agree. But you could kill what he cares about most, which is humanity. Like the people. Like you don't have to kill him to hurt him.
I understand it. I recognize what he's saying. Yeah. I just don't like it.
Yeah, I also it's interesting that comes out of Frank Miller's mouth too. Mm-hmm. Like that idea exists in this work that is very much not about that.
It's hard for me to get a grasp on him because he goes back and forth in this weird way.
Well, and the weird thing is that he's written great superhero stories. He's not writing from the place of Alan Moore, who hated superheroes and found them to be kind of artifacts of this bygone era. Or people like Garth Ennis now and Mark Millar, who are kind of like, maybe not so much Mark Millar, but I know Garth Ennis is definitely on record as saying, I hate superheroes. I think they're stupid and cheesy and ridiculous. And so I don't really get this. What I get from this book is more kind of like missing the forest for the trees than it is, I don't like superheroes. Like, this is Frank Miller has written about how he wanted to save Batman. Like, he looked at the way people saw him, and he saw Adam West standing there in this very cheesy costume, and he was like, that was not the Batman he had envisioned.
But I think in this Elseworld story, he purposefully took him too far.
I think so.
And then in year one, reins him back a lot.
And I think, and I was going to say this earlier, and I guess it's a good kind of beginning of a capstone. Anyways, I think you had to go that far.
Yeah.
I think you had to go this far. Like, I think he had to figure out where 10 was and then go to 11 because he had to punch out. Because what this book did, along with Watchmen, that I think is more important than saving Batman or making a grand statement about superheroes, was showed these are not for kids only. That's a great part of the market, but like now it's back then you had the opposite problem. Is you have like now everybody's writing for this kind of dinosaur market,
right?
And everybody's kind of like DC especially is like, well, fuck the kids. Right. And back then it was like, well, comic books are just for kids. And Frank Miller was like, no, they're not.
Well, and a lot of people were saying, no, they're not. Yeah. Like 2000 AD was very much, no, they're
absolutely
not. All of the British invasion was like, let's
Alan
elevate
Moore writing
this.
Swamp Thing and Watchmen and Frank Miller doing this. And there's there were a bunch of indie there's a bunch of underground comics going on at this time too that were aimed like at adults.
Oh, absolutely. I think that he took it that far, and then the very next Batman book he wrote, he pulled it back.
Absolutely.
To, like an 8.
Because year one is, and it's probably in my top 5 Batman stories. Yeah, I think it's fucking great.
And Mazzucchelli's art in that.
Oh my god.
Mazzucchelli's art is incredible in that book.
Yeah.
I still don't like that one that much.
It's still got a lot of problematic ideas, specifically Selena Kyle.
Selena Kyle's a prostitute,
and some weird shit. Batman's fucking ghetto ass technology that he has, where he's like, "I'm on a glider now," and it's like, "Come on, Frank Miller, do you have no like? Where's your imagination?" That really does bother me that he like cannot imagine a future that has cooler technology. Like that kind of bothers me.
That's a problem.
However. I think that my favorite moment in this is like what makes me think that Frank Miller knows what he's doing for a lot of this book is when the final confrontation between Harvey Dent and Batman. When Harvey's like, they fixed my face, but they played a joke on me. They didn't put the human face on my face. They just made it all look like a monster. And Bruce looks at him and he says, when I see him, I see a reflection. And then it shows the bat. A reflection. Like, he realizes that he's a monster. Like, he knows that to beat people like the Joker and Harvey Dent, like, he has become something awful. Yeah. And I think that the reason that he kind of kills himself as Batman in this is because he's like, came back because I thought I was needed, realized that I'm a huge part of this problem and I need to go.
Yeah.
But I don't know that that's Frank Miller's thesis, or if that's just like I would like
question that.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure. I don't know if the text supports that enough, but I get that message. There's ideas of that in here,
and there's an idea that Batman's gone too far. I think, and this is the interesting thing. We talk about this a lot, but one of the reasons I talked about this is because you can make these interpretations because there is some ambiguity going on.
Oh, yeah, and I think that's what makes this a good
word. And I'm sure there
are
people who have done their theses on all the different ways you can look at this story.
I mean,
nobody's ever done that.
This is just one outcome of the future of Batman and
Absolutely.
Superman. I much prefer the one in Kingdom Come. I much prefer Batman's future in Batman Beyond.
Yep.
That being said, I still do like this story.
I
would not read it a lot, though.
Joe, the person who suggested that Robin be female was John Byrne.
John Byrne, thank you.
The edition that I have actually has a foreword by Frank Miller where he talks about some of this stuff. So I'll hand that to you, John.
I have the same version of you, but mine doesn't have the intro. It just has the afterword, which is the huge, like, the text version of...
Oh, yeah.
So, you know why John Byrne wanted it to be a girl? So he could see her tied up all the time. Because we all know how much John Byrne likes his bondage.
Does he? I didn't know that. Oh, God,
dude. He's always like... He's got this thing with, like... He wrote my favorite
Superman. I think that's
he wrote... but have you read Next Men? Like, it's full of,
why would I read that? I read
younger
X-Men.
Girls being brainwashed and used as slaves by older men. He was all about that shit.
John Byrne and Chris Claremont both have that particular fetish.
Yeah, well, Chris Claremont had a fetish for bringing a certain redhead back to life years after.
He's all about psychic bondage.
Oh, no, my version does have that in there. I just didn't read it.
Okay.
My version, I want to recommend, if anybody can find it, I need to look to see if it's online. Kate, I'm sorry I interrupted you.
That book has to be like $200.
No, I'm not sure, but there's an essay in here by Alan Moore called The Mark. I think it's called The Mark of Batman or The Mark of the Bat. Hold on, I have it marked. The Mark of Batman. And it is really thought-provoking. I don't know that it's an excellent... I mean, it really shows where Alan Moore's head is at while this is going on. Because he's talking about people need new heroes. Yeah. And so, like, he talks about how, like... there have been authors that come and show, well, Tarzan probably would have had sex with chimps and he would have been eating dead people with them. And James Bond is very clearly a misogynist that hates women. Yeah. And in literature and cinema, because the audience was considered to be more mature, this kind of change in sensibility was much more easy to affect than it was in comic books because... how do you fucking change superheroes from these kind of like ooey gooey corny characters into real... people? And his answer to that was Watchmen, of course. Right. But it's really it really raises some interesting
Tom
thought
Strong
points.
And Top 10. Like, he had a lot of answers.
He did, and I prefer Top 10 out of all of them.
I think that to look at Alan Moore and say that he is Watchmen and V for Vendetta is doing yourself as a comics fan a disservice.
Absolutely.
He wrote his Swamp Thing's fantastic. Yep. I love Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow. I think the Top 10 is amazing. Smacks is fun. Like, there's so much that he's written. Yeah. Regardless of what you thought about Watchmen or the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, you should read more Alan Moore.
Let me specifically say that his answer to how do you deal with bringing superheroes into the modern era was Watchmen.
Well, no, he hoped that Watchmen would kill.
Well, but that's because that's how he wanted to. Yeah. But then he wrote Top 10 in the...
But they're not really superheroes.
Someone I know actually loaned me not too long ago a DC Presents The Best of Alan Moore, where it was just a collection of random stories that Alan Moore had written. That was really good for the most part. Yeah. I mean, they weren't all great, but...
It's where the idea of Blackest Night came from, is the Green Lantern story in that.
Oh, yeah, with Abin Sur going to the planet of Yismal, which is like the fucking crazy demon planet that is awful 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Because you're Abin Sur,
that's where, I mean, like, it's well remembered on Jeff Johns' part that exists, because, like, a lot of the ideas of Blackest Night came out of that, and so, really interesting.
Yeah.
So, Kate, you were going to say what your favorite part was.
No,
he went first.
I went first with about one-armed Oliver Queen.
Oh, right. Sorry.
But there were a couple things I wanted to talk about. I was looking through the different editions because Joe, Tobiah, and I all brought different versions of this book. And they seem to be doing changes with each one that I thought was kind of interesting. For the 10th anniversary edition, they added a new foreword. Uh-huh. And they changed the colors, which I mean,
did they really?
They updated them.
Yeah, they seemed kind of more runny in the old ones. Like the watercolors would run a little more, and they kind of like sharpened them in the newer ones.
That's really interesting.
And then for the 2002 volume that I have, that matches the sequel, The Dark Knight Strikes Again, first trade, they added a prologue written by James Olsen that actually ties into the sequel. So The Dark Knight Returns has a prologue in it that isn't in the previous ones.
That's weird.
And then in the sequel, The Dark Knight Strikes Again, the prologue of that is actually the speech that James Gordon gives during Bruce's funeral.
Well, maybe in a couple of years, when they put out the 20th anniversary edition, because you know they're going to, they'll change all the dialogue so that Carrie Kelly only calls herself Red Robin, out of respect to Jason Todd.
Right, it'll totally fit into New 52 continuity. In fucking 5 years, there won't be a New 52.
God, I hope not.
No, I guarantee it. This is going on the record. I'm guaranteed that in 5 years, what's happening now in continuity will no longer be like the mainstream norm.
I hope that you're right.
How long can you call it New 52?
I don't hope that you're right. I pray
until
that
it's
you're
80
right.
years old, in which case it becomes older than the original.
There are guys at DC, guys in editorial, guys in the publishing that are already admitting like this is out of control. We don't know what we're doing. That is the beginning of the end.
I hope that you're right.
Yeah, I would be surprised if I'm right.
I have lost an incredible amount of faith in DC Comics.
I lost all of the faith in editorial, but that went away around the time of Countdown. So I'm just waiting for this editorial guard to be fired or die, and then maybe we'll get somebody that actually knows what the fuck they're doing.
That would certainly be nice.
Storm it would be in the comic book
like
scene.
Jeff Lemire.
Just fucking anyone, like someone that can goddamn
someone that
can put the fucking books out in the goddamn right order would be nice. Just that, that's all I'm fucking. I'm not asking for like to write a fucking the next Watchmen. I'm just like, God, put them out.
What are you talking about? 4 has always come after 3.
Oh my god! Just like put the trades out. DC, just fucking put the trades out. They're purposefully waiting over a year to put the hardcover and softcovers out.
Jesus Christ!
Because
why?
Because they want their single issues to sell. Image Comics, the day that issue 11 of East of West came out, the trade that contained issue 10 was out. That's 1 month later. The trade is out.
Invincible's been doing that too because
absolutely, because Image fucking goddamn has their shit together.
Because the trade that contained 108, the one that we're ending our long run with,
which spoilers we're not. We're going to end with 110. However,
that seems like a terrible place to end.
It's perfect. We have to talk about 110. So we're reading up to 110. We have to talk about it.
Yeah,
and also,
I'm fucking thrilled too. Let me tell you,
it's right before the big knockdown drag out fight that will be 111, which won't be out by the time we're talking about it.
Okay.
However,
anyways, what I was saying is that that trade came out, I think it was the week after 109 came out.
It should be Image has been trying to put them out the same week, so it should be
but
close.
I think it was like late.
Yeah, I mean, but that's how you do it, in this trade-driven market. That's how you do it. DC is proven that they have no fucking idea what they're doing just by that. Like, the content alone, they just can't fucking put the books out on time. They can't put them out in the right order. They don't know what they're doing. They can't put the trades out. They
change things for the trades.
They do. They edit the trades.
People keep saying like, "Oh, Wonder Woman's good," and there's a part of me that's just like, I don't want to read that because just thinking about DC makes me sick in the mouth.
Yeah, and to be honest, just fucking don't read it. Don't buy it. Don't read it. There's plenty of other good comics that are happening elsewhere. I love those characters. That's what makes the DC so bittersweet to me, is because I still like Batman. I still like the Flash.
I'm waiting for the day when people say, like, no, it's changed. It's better again.
Yeah, I'll let you know. But it hasn't fucking happened yet.
You will find us collapsed in a pile weeping tears of pure unmitigated joy that shine on our faces like diamonds.
It will be dancing around a pile of burning New 50, old New 52 books.
When it changes.
And the old effigy, the old New 52, and an effigy of Dan DiDio going, thank God, our prayers have been answered.
We're gonna find a bunch of do they prefer little people or midgets? I'm not sure. If either one of those were offensive, I apologize. Dwarfs. We're going to reenact the scene where the Wicked Witch dies from. It's going to be great.
Well, those are munchkins. That's another species entirely.
They could just be children. We don't know.
We could make it children.
They were portrayed by little people, but munchkins are their own thing.
Yeah.
Well, there's
one thing. Well, there's one final thing I wanted to say.
No, can't do it.
Tobias, final thoughts.
He's smiling. He's smiling. It's going to make me want to throw something at him. Give me something to throw at him.
Toby, that grin is evil.
Toby, you have the floor.
Fucking evil.
You're going to say that your top 5 favorite games of all time are Mega Man X and Spice.
Don't steal other people's jokes, Joe. No, I just wanted to say I'm Tobias Panchin.
There you go.
No, actually, I did have one thing that I wanted to say about Dark Knight Returns. I actually wanted to reference 3 specific panels because I feel like they sum up so much of the Dark Knight Returns for me.
We've been talking about this for 2.5 hours. Not really, but a lot of time.
A long time. So the first one is when Lana Lang is being interviewed on TV, and they're asking her, like, how can you support Batman? And she's like, we live in the shadow of crime with the unspoken understanding that we are victims of fear, of violence, of social impotence. And the word impotence is in bold.
Yeah.
And then her next line immediately is, a man again in bold, has risen to show us that the power is and always has been in our hands.
Yeah.
And that line spoke very strongly
to me. Well, because it's Captain Planet's tagline.
No, and I think that that's really interesting because obviously in Frank Miller's opinion, that means man masculine.
Yeah.
But is it not easy to read that as man, a human, and not Superman?
No, I really feel like I'm reading this as penis man.
Yeah.
Like,
that's fair. That's a fair reading.
If it was not immediately preceded by the line about impotence,
that's fair.
I could see where you're coming from.
That's fair. I think that something about Batman versus Superman in this book is always like, look, Batman's showing us that we're all human and we have the power to save ourselves. There is an overriding Frank Miller masculinity running through the book. That is a major downfall. The
second thing I wanted to point out is when Commissioner Gordon is talking to Commissioner Yindel, or Captain Yindel at this point.
Yeah.
And he's talking about Roosevelt and how, like, maybe he lied us into going to war with the Axis power. Of course, nothing was ever proven, and a lot of innocent people died, but we won the war. It bounced back and forth in my head until I realized I couldn't judge it. It was too big. He was too big. And she's like, I don't see what this has to do with the vigilante. And he says, well, maybe you will. Then the third...
How do you take that to mean? Because I have a very
I'm gonna get back to that in a second. Right. I want to just reference the third one, and it's when Batman and Joker are fighting in the amusement park, and it's being overlaid with more talking heads talking,
as usual.
And it's Lana Lang again, and someone's saying to her, if you talk in the victims of his fan club, the Batman-related body count is up there with a minor war. And she says, it is a war, Maury, though he seems to be the only one with balls enough to fight it.
Yeah.
And the message that I'm getting is basically that Batman is this larger-than-life entity that's just too big to deal with human morality.
Yeah.
And we just need to trust him because he has the balls and the penis to to fix all of our problems.
Yeah.
That's how you get dictators.
No, I
this is a very authoritarian, patriarchal story that's all about how Batman is this strong guy who's got the will to deal with tough problems that everybody else is too weak to handle, and we just need to trust in him because he's right and he's going to protect us.
But isn't it interesting, though, that Batman's solution of how to get out of this, because those words never come out of Batman's mouth. He's never like, I am the man bigger than everyone else. Look at how giant my fucking balls are. I am the goddamn Batman. He never says that in this book. That's not till later in Frank Miller's Batman
Right, but
career.
you can see that those ideas are percolating in his brain.
Sure, but the way that he defeats the problem of he is now this uber masculine icon is he kills himself. He sees himself as a monster in this book.
Right, but where does he go after that?
He becomes a father figure to this
like he's
army.
moving away from society, which is too corrupt for him to deal with, to set up his own society under the earth.
Oh, yeah.
Where he's going to train an army of like his acolytes, basically. Like he's setting up a cult of personality around himself.
Yep.
And where's he going to go after that?
In
like,
that panel,
what's the next
he says
step?
Specifically that he's laying out plans to get water into Gotham to restore electricity. And
I always read that as him saying that they were going to set up like the Batcave with water and electricity.
That's how I read it too. Is he's like, oh, they're going to set up a new home base. But the idea of Batman, these kids that he's taken, these orphans that he's adopted, much in the same way that he adopted Dick and Jason. Like, he's taking these orphans and saying, look, we're going to now bring justice to the streets.
Yeah, his last line is, it begins here, an army, to bring sense to a world plagued by worse than thieves and murderers.
Yeah.
This will be a good life. Like, he's gone completely batshit insane.
Yeah.
No pun intended?
No pun very intended.
I think that Frank Miller knows that Batman, a man that dresses as a bat, and thinks that he can win a war on crime with his fists is insane.
I don't see that, and that's the thing. I don't know that Miller knows that.
And I don't either.
Feel that might be a little too aware.
I don't know. I don't know. I know that he went off the deep end later. Yeah. I know that he tried to recapture this lightning in a bottle at least 3 times and failed every time.
Well,
Holy Terror is a failure. The Dark Knight Strikes Again is a failure. But that's not where this story goes. If you had to imagine the next step after this story, it's not even fucking close to that.
Oh, God, no.
And Aspar, All-Star Batman Robin, is a failure. Like, those are all him trying to recapture the ideas that he had in this book and them failing. This works for some reason. Is it an accident? Was Miller just better writing? Was it a pre-9/11 world? Like,
it's the
I
time,
don't know.
It's the place. It's what was going on in the social zeitgeist. It was what's going on.
I feel like it was just the right book at the right time.
It is very much a book of its time.
It is,
and I don't know that Frank Miller ever moved out of that time. And that's why I think that people think he's not aware anymore. Is because he's a man who is so dated by his what I would call old,
and I referenced Robert Heinlein early on, and I did that specifically because Heinlein got the brain eater pretty bad. Like, especially after his wife died. Like, he took whatever weird fetishes and crazy ideas that he had in his head, and he just turned that into an echo chamber, and he got crazier and crazier. And I think that the same thing has happened to Frank Miller.
I agree.
And this is him, like, in his whatever, like, have spacesuit will travel. Like, he's not all the way crazy yet. Like, you can see some of those ideas there under the surface, but it's not too bad. Like, I'm looking at this and I'm complaining about it from the hindsight of
it's been 20
years of him getting progressively crazier.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Where I might not have seen or recognized those same things at the time. Like,
you could see it. If
Catwoman as a prostitute is only as problematic as it is,
if not 10 years later,
with all of the women prostitute characters that have come since.
Oh yeah,
in Sin City, you can definitely see his slip because the first one is very strong in what it's trying to do.
When did Sin City come out?
Sin City was the early 90s, I think, is when it first came out.
I'm not sure.
The last one, To Hell and Back, came out had to have been, I think, late 90s, early 2000s. And that was just like, what the fuck is this?
Well, and then Frank Miller is very much a New Yorker. That's a lot of his identity, and 9/11 changed everything.
Yeah, it broke his brain, as it did a number of other people.
And that, excuses a lot of, what he wrote afterwards in my mind. Is like, this is a man who has no faith in society anymore, due to what he actually witnessed. But I think that, again, it's like he may have missed the point, because something that I think, like, I mean, 9/11 was a tragedy, and people focus on it like it's the only bad thing that's ever happened in the world, and I think that that's ridiculous, because lots more people have died in lots worse situations in the world, and we turn a blind eye because we're Americans and we're dumb. That's fair. That's a fair assessment of 9/11. But what I saw in 9/11 was people being heroes, and that's something that I'll never forget, is that no matter what happens, Boston Marathon proved it to me again, no matter what happens, like, the American people, they're there for one another, and, like, that doesn't have anything to do with them being American. That has everything to do with them being a good Samaritan to someone else and saying, look, it doesn't matter what you believe in, but, like, something horrible is happening to you, and I'm going to do everything in my power to help you.
You're saying that Samaritans are bad as a general rule, so you have to qualify that with no, this is a good Samaritan.
Well, history shows us that Samaritans were not good, and that's why the Bible story of the Good Samaritan was supposed to be like, look, there can be good people even in a shitty society. However, that aside, that's too much Bible talk for right now. I think that there's, like, people inherently do want to help people who can't help themselves.
People will come together. I have my enduring image of 9/11, and I was born in New York. I had a cousin that was a firefighter in the city, and my enduring image of that is people standing on the streets of New York, a city renowned for its rude populace. Like, cheering these, they're not. They're really not. I love New York. It's one of my favorite cities ever. Standing on the sidewalks, cheering the emergency vehicles as they were going through, because they knew what those guys were going through. They knew that they were working endless shifts through rubble and breathing in dirt and just killing themselves, literally, to try and find anybody they could.
I think that Toby mentioned something early in this podcast that is probably the worst part of this book, which is the villain of this story are the people who are affected by the real villains of the story. Yeah. In my opinion, the villain of any story is someone who goes, that person needs help, I'm not going to help them. That's a villain. Yeah. I'm not only not going to help them, I'm going to exploit their weakness for my personal gain.
Yeah.
Those are villains. Those are villains. And Batman does nothing to address those people in this, and that is the biggest failing of this book, in my opinion.
I would agree.
And the biggest failing of us as a society is we don't see those people as villainous as they are. They really are. And anyone that turns their back on someone who needs help, that's villain. That's, I think that that's wrong. And
one of my favorite directors is Hayao Miyazaki, and he said explicitly he doesn't believe in villains.
Yeah.
Which I think is one of the things that I like so much about his works. And if you look at them, like, there are very few purely villainous characters.
Yeah.
Perhaps even none.
Right.
Like, all the conflict comes from people, like, often people who are, like, legitimately, like, hurting or scared, or, like, they have a reason why they're doing something quote unquote bad.
Or they're badly written.
Well, I think that in Miyazaki films, like, some of the characters are more villainous than characters in other movies. I think that the character in Princess Mononoke, which is one of my least favorite Miyazaki movies, that the clan leader who is trying to kill the gods.
You're talking about the woman?
Yeah.
Who's, like, helping all of those lepers and, like, trying to build a future for her people?
For the female population.
Not just the female population.
There are a lot of people that die in that book because she's like, you don't deserve my help. She
definitely has villainous qualities, but she's not a purely evil person.
So it depends on how you define villain, and I often define it as, look, you have the ability to help somebody and you didn't. You fucked up.
I'm going to come in right here, because this is a conversation that could literally, like, we could sit here and have it forever.
Oh yeah,
we're already
at like 2 hours.
But I think that's something that this book has a problem of, is its villain. It fails to recognize the true villain of society.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with that.
That being said,
so
let's move on to recommendations.
We made it, and we're all still alive. So,
and that was a good conversation. I feel good about that.
I think it was. Yeah, I was worried there'd be a lot of screaming, but there was not as much. I think Chard really wanted there to be screaming, so he started yelling at me, but I didn't take the bait this time.
I've heard your rant of why Superman beats Batman.
I think it's
so many times.
It's a reaction.
I literally do not care.
You know what it is? It's a reaction to being a comic book nerd in the 90s when everybody was like, oh, Wolverine would beat Lobo. And I'm like, okay, this is stupid. Like, why are we even arguing about this? Because my response back then was very much, these are characters written by a comic book. Who wins is whoever the writer wants to win. Like, that is always going to be the answer.
And that is why Hulk can beat Superman.
Yeah,
and I'm not even going to...
The writer writes it. It happens.
The thing is that we argue when we have very strongly conflicting opinions.
Yes.
And even if our readings of this book are different, I think we can all recognize, like, well, this element is problematic, or could at least be read that way.
Yeah.
Like, we're not arguing about the merits and flaws of the book so much as sharing perspectives on it.
And we give each other...
It's not so much about whether we enjoyed it or not, is as much as...
Do we think it's important or not?
There's stuff in here that is bad, and there's stuff in here that is probably good. And, I still enjoy the hell out of this book.
Yeah, I like it, even though I have a problem with some of Frank Miller's writing. And I'm a little surprised that nobody pointed it out, but one of the things that I saw in Frank Miller's quote-unquote mutants was inner city black kids.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
that's exactly what we were talking about. Yeah.
Like... These people are being treated like they're second-class citizens, and that was very much the reaction to the inner-city youth of any nationality in. Yeah,
there was all this fear of like there's going to be an epidemic of crack babies who are all these like black kids who are just born addicted to crack, and they were just going to be like horribly fucked up and just destroy society, and everything was falling apart.
Well, it was very much like suddenly we were afraid of people that were different, even though like all of our ancestors were also immigrants to the U.S. It's like, look at all these new, and like there was a lot of like hate towards Puerto Rican people.
It was a culture of polarization because was. And that's a whole other political discussion. It absolutely was.
Oh, there's these people that are new to our country.
Tell me, I lived through the shit. I was there. It was horrible. It was horrible, and it's still awful because it's still happening. It's just we've stopped talking about it as much, and so it's become a lot more institutionalized. And
arguably, there's no real media anymore, which is actually something that kind of is brought up in the book too. That like the media is just two bunch of talking heads. Hey, here's my opinion. Here's my opinion. There's no facts.
Well, the newscaster at the end is like, the woman is trying to say, listen, this has brought on nuclear winter. This is the world, like the whole country does not have any power. She's like, yeah, I know, I have to find a new jacket. What am I going to wear? There's a reason that those clips are just talking heads. That's because
it's very much like the way that like, a debate over food stamps will break out, and the woman will be like, I should try to go on food stamps. What a diet it would be. It's like, you are trivializing something that is very fucking important here.
Exactly.
Don't be a dickhead.
So, there's a lot of issues, but at the end of the day, I think we give each other a lot of shit because...
Well, it's because I hate all of you guys.
Well, as we all hate, that's what I was going to say, because we're filled with seething, roiling hatred. And
I love you guys.
Kate, shut the fuck up!
Stop making us smile. It hurts my face.
It's the power of the Ginger Yeti. But yes, let's do recommendations. Otherwise, somebody's going to say something and we're going to be off on another fucking tangent.
Yeah, we got to do this. Joe, what would you like to recommend to us this week?
So I actually got my hands on something today that I've been meaning to read for a while because it was on a lot of the best of 2013 lists that I read. And I was intrigued by it because it was by Xander Cannon, who did the artwork for Top 10, which is...
Yeah, and co-wrote Smacks with
Alan Moore.
And wrote some of the other offshoots, maybe?
I can't remember if he worked on the 49ers or not, but Top 10 is one of my favorite Alan Moore works, and I love his art. And this was... it's Heck, is what it's called. And it's part of a project that he got involved in, which is a 144-hour... graphic novel or cartooning or something like that. And it's basically, they would take 12 hours on one day a month to write a 12-chapter story over the course of a year. And at the end, you would have a 12-chapter graphic novel without putting in too much work. And so it's very loosely sketched. It's very cartooned. It's much more cartoony. It's black and white. And it's the story of this guy, whose nickname is Heck, who goes back to the town he's from for his father's funeral and ends up finding a portal to hell in his father's house and opens up basically it's like an investigations firm where people will go and be like, hey, my husband died or my brother died and I need to find out this piece of information. And he pretty much just goes down into hell and figures it out.
Cool.
And it follows him on a specific trip to hell. And it's really interesting because they're not, I think it's really difficult to tell a story about hell without having some pretty heavy duty religious overtones. And there's really none to be found here. It's strictly a story about Heck and where he comes from, and it's kind of his personal journey, even though he's working for somebody else. And like, I mean, it reads fast. It's 290 pages,
is it
but
collected?
Yeah, it's collected in a trade.
How much is it?
You know what? I honestly can't remember right now, and I did not.
Was it?
It's probably about like 17. I would say between $15 and $19.
Was it originally online, or was this just like
no?
Okay.
I think it went straight to graphic novel, and it's really cool because there's a bit of misdirection in it, but for the most part, I really enjoyed it. I really found it to be interesting. I could relate to Heck's journeys in a lot of ways, and just. It kind of sets you up to think this is going to be like, oh, this is like badass, like kind of like the movie Constantine and hell, and it's not at all like that.
Is there action or is it mostly?
I mean, not even really. It's a very personal journey for Heck. It's definitely. He talks about how hell, the architecture of hell, is largely in your mind, and it's really kind of an interesting take on it. And I really liked it a lot.
Is it
more
anything at all like The Ninth Gate?
Maybe.
No. We just all know about my unnatural love of that movie.
There's nothing unnatural about your love of that movie.
I
Really?
shared it. That
Okay,
movie
that's
is
fine.
great.
That's an incredible movie.
I do need to find out, though, the place that you always stop at. That's the real end of the movie.
It just, it's not even like a set place. It's just at some point I like forget that I'm watching it, or something will come up and will stop. There's not like it's not like when I watch Die Another Day where there's like a specific spot where I'm like, the movie is over now. Like
20 minutes in.
Yeah, it's not very far into that movie. But no, I just like will get, because the first 3 times I watched it were on television, and I just like other shit came up, or I went away at a commercial break and forgot that TV happens.
But
I get distracted easily.
It's not really like The Ninth Gate. No,
that's fair.
No.
All right, it sounds cool though.
It's good. It's good. I mean,
black and white.
It's black and white, and it's him working very fast. So the style is really, really loose. It's like really loose cartooning, really thick black lines. The character design is really kind of open, but it deals almost exclusively with Heck and his companion.
Cool.
But yeah, it's a cool little story, man. It's really well done.
Sounds good. Cade, what would you like to read this week?
Okay, so this recommendation is going to be a little weird because I've been in a lot of pain today, and I'm on some painkillers right now. Which is also why I've been so quiet this episode.
I hadn't noticed.
Okay, so next week, episode 64 is going to be my 50th consecutive episode without an absence.
Oh, man.
Because the last one I missed was episode 14.
What about Ladies' Night?
Oh, shit!
I don't remember what episode Ladies' Night was. Was that 10?
No, it was like 14 maybe.
Maybe that's the one you... Anyway.
No, I think that was like 19.
I'm not trying to throw you off your game. 50th episode, because none of us were on that one. So
yeah, that doesn't count.
I was on.
Anyways,
that doesn't count.
And on that episode, we reviewed S.H.I.E.L.D., which was a Jonathan Hickman miniseries that wasn't actually finished at the time.
Is it done now?
Nope. They announced that the last 2 issues were going to be released this year.
Oh, cool.
Hopefully. They're going to work on them.
So, to commemorate my 50th straight episode, I was going to recommend another Jonathan Hickman book. And this one was a recommendation sent to me by Brian.
Nice.
And a long list from when I gave the shout-outs for people to send me the recommendations.
Yeah, and please do keep sending us recs.
We love your
We had a really fun time reading, at least I did, reading Billy 99.
No, it's
so
good.
it's cool for us to hear about books we've never heard of, because there are many that I've never heard of. So.
And this book it's a 4-issue miniseries by Jonathan Hickman called The Red Wing, with art by Nick Pitara. And I could not find a lot of Nick Pitara's works.
Oh, he did the Manhattan Project.
Manhattan Projects.
Did he?
Yeah.
Okay.
He did a sweet sketch for somebody that we know who I've forgotten who it is.
Whiteout was episode 20.
Whiteout was episode 20. All right. He did a sweet Einstein sketch for someone at Comic-Con. It's somebody that we know. I don't remember who it was,
I feel like I saw that.
Anyway, he does all of Manhattan Projects, but this is the first time that they worked together, as far as I know, was on Red Wing.
And that has actually been on a list that I've had on my phone forever of like all the comics I want to buy. I just like every time I see a comic I want to buy, I put it on the list or take a screenshot, and that's just been on there like, oh yeah, I'll get to that. And I just haven't not gotten to it for 4 years.
I was going to try to guess what Hickman book you were going to recommend, and this would not have been on there because I forgot about this one. So
yeah, I hadn't heard of it, even though I've heard of a lot of Hickman's books, and while I don't always like them, and I'm not sure how much I liked this one, but it was solid, and I think we should talk about it. Cool. So this is a book about jet fighters who go through time. Like, their jets are designed to jump through time, so they will be having like dogfights over ancient Egypt, and then they will jump through time to modern day London, and the missile will still be chasing him, and it's about these two kids on a quest to find their fathers who they have never heard from after a dogfight, and it's pretty cool.
Cool.
Huh? Sounds interesting.
Hickman loves his time travel.
Time jets.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Why would you not just call this series Time Jets?
Probably because there's already a series called Time Jets.
Oh, that's a good reason.
I mean, I don't know that, but I'm all of the time.
Why would there not
If there is
be?
a book coming out right now called Time Jets and I'm not reading it, I just became incredibly sad.
With like Time Crisis and Time Cops and Time whatever, the 90s was like...
It was all about time.
It was a time
chair, time shoes.
Yeah.
Time
Warner.
Bus. Time Warner.
It was big in the 90s.
Time Skate. That was a good one.
All right. Anything else you want to say about this one, Kate? What's is it color? Is it in color?
Yeah, it
okay,
is.
Cool. I just was curious.
Rochelle Rosenberg did the colors.
Cool.
I
The
missed
name that I don't know.
Awesome. Should I go next then?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm bringing back a book that I pitched previously, and I think I pitched it about a year ago because the book that I'm actually going to pitch volumes 1 and 2 of The Hedge Knight.
Yeah.
So Hedge Knight and Hedge Knight 2, Sworn Sword.
Yeah.
And these are adaptations of George R.R. Martin Dunk and Egg stories, which is a series of short stories. There's been 3 or 4 of them total. I think only 2 of them have been adapted. But they're set in Westeros, the world of Game of Thrones, but 100 years earlier.
Yep.
So Game of Thrones is back on TV. Episode 2 of season 4 just aired, like the day before we recorded this. So
nothing interesting happened at all.
No, nothing at all. Nothing. So I'm in a very Game of Thrones mood, and these are both really good, fun, like knight and swords stories.
Yeah.
It's set 100 years before a Game of Thrones, and it's during a time of like great peace and prosperity.
The Targaryens are on the throne.
The Targaryens are still on the throne, and they actually make references in the series, the main book series and the show, to like some of the characters and events that happened here.
Yeah.
And it's about a hedge knight, a knight without a lord, named Sir Duncan the Tall, and his squire, who's this like boy that he meets at the beginning of the first one, named Egg, who's just this like bald little kid he meets at the tavern. And in the first story, they go to a tournament, and like Sir Duncan, like he doesn't have armor, he has a shitty horse, like he has no money.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm going to go and I'm going to win the tournament and I'm going to get all these things.
Sir Duncan was a squire to a previous hedge knight of renown. Like this was
not of super net renown.
But people knew of him. Like
a few people
he
knew.
runs into people at the tournament who are like, "Oh, you're his squire." Like that.
Well, they're
adds
like,
an air of respect.
He's served under a lot of different lords, so people are like, "I remember your master. I don't know you."
Yeah, because he was just a squire.
But he very quickly gets into some very big trouble with a couple of Targaryen princes who are up to shenanigans. Mm-hmm. And there's like a duel that happens and a lot of running around, and it's a little bit more lighthearted.
Sides are drawn.
Fun, but still with the kind of the Game of Thrones air of seriousness about it. And like you get to see all of the different like knights with their sigils, and it's a cool short series. There's 2 volumes. They're each like 4 issues. Yeah. So it's like 8 issues overall. And it's a really great little series if you enjoy Game of Thrones. It kind of gives you that like extra little bit of insight into kind of the history of the world.
After Toby pitched this a year ago, I borrowed The Hedge Knight from him and read it, the first one, and thought it was great. I had a great time reading it.
It's a lot of fun.
It's really fun. And then I saw the second one on the shelf, and I was like, Toby, did you know there's a second one? He's like, yeah, I have that one too. And I was like, what? Why did you not let me borrow that one?
I have the first one was originally published by Devil's Due Publishing. Yeah. And then I think it was republished later by Marvel, because I have the second one published by Marvel in hardcover.
Yeah, it was bought up by, who were the guys that did all the Anita Blake stuff? It was the,
Was it Dynamite?
No. It's, this is going to drive me insane now. People know what I'm talking about. Dable Brothers Press. I think that's what it was called. And they had a lot of...
Oh, yeah, Dabel.
Yeah, Dable Brothers, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing? Yeah, okay. They had a lot of, like, fiction novels properties that they owned the rights to do in graphic form, and so they did a lot of adaptations, and then they were published by Marvel. So all the Anita Blake Vampire Hunter or whatever that was.
Yeah, all my Anita Blake volumes say Marvel on the top and Dable Brothers at the bottom.
And this is that same arrangement as far as I know.
This one doesn't say Dable Brothers, but I took the dust jacket off.
Yeah.
So, but it's got really great art. The colors are really good. It's got sharp line work. The writing is snappy.
Yeah, it's very like mid to late 2000s art, which I think is like really solid. Yeah, very very good.
Yep. And my favorite part has always been reading when I'm reading the books, I'll pull out my copy of Hedge Knight, because in the back, it's just got a chart of like a ton of the house sigils, like in full color. So like when they're talking about like, oh, I saw a banner that looked like this, like I can flip out my handy chart and be like, oh, I know which house that is.
Yeah, rampant on a whatever.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the fuck does all of that mean? Like he's very specific in his heraldic talk, but you're like, if you don't know what those things are.
Well, rampant just means like up on 2 legs.
See? I don't know. I don't know.
So a rampant boner would be up on 2 legs.
Yeah, be a boner on 2 legs. Okay. You got it, Joe.
Right on.
Good job.
Well, it wouldn't be like a floppy boner that's like bent over on 2 legs.
Can you have a floppy boner? Question.
I don't think you can now.
I think you can have a floppy boner.
Okay.
Boner implies
I'm going to apologize to my mother who is listening to this. Coke dick is a thing. That is what a floppy boner looks like.
Well, no, this is a chub. This is a chub. It's got a little chub going on.
Okay, I'll be willing to admit that. I will be willing to. Yes. I will.
A little chub. It's not a boner.
See to that.
It's just a half chub.
That's a floppy boner.
That's fair. Semantics.
I will. Yes.
Anyway,
turgid.
I think a boner implies some rigidity. However, go ahead, Toby.
No, I'm done.
Okay.
Yay! With everything forever.
It's my turn. Podcast canceled.
Fuck you, boner. Podcast canceled.
I really appreciate that you guys, pitching some series that are not super long. We can get back into the realm of doing like 1 or 2 trades. And in that fashion, I'm recommending 32 issues of something, which came out the 31st, I guess it's 31 issues. The 31st issue of which came out today, as you're listening to this. So Wednesday after we're recording this. And it is Superior Spider-Man. This is the finale. The finale happens today.
I thought the finale happened like 2 weeks ago, and this is going to be Amazing Spider-Man number 1.
Nope, this is number 31.
Damn.
Is the 19th, which is Wednesday, right? Yeah.
See, I feel like we're going to have a hard time talking about the series, assuming we pick it, because like grows very organically out of Amazing Spider-Man number 700 and what was happening in the storyline immediately before that.
And that may be true, but I've never read any of that stuff, so I have no idea what happens in there. I only read the Superior Spider-Man title. I didn't read any of the tie-ins. I never read when he was in Avengers. I never read Superior Team Up. I never read any of that stuff. And I think that even without reading all of that, it's a great story.
Guess what, guys? July 2012 is Superior Spider Month.
Yeah. I think that it's a great series. Like, I don't think you...
No, it is definitely a great series. I just feel like you need that context.
I think you need to know what happens, but the wrap-up page at the beginning of Superior Spider-Man issue 1 explains it pretty well for my book. If you're like how I normally am and would have gone back and read all of that, I read it kind of...
No, you definitely have to read all 700 issues of Amazing Spider-Man to get the context.
No, I think that you should... I mean, if you want to get...
I have like 300 of those.
If you want to get...
That's not nearly enough.
It's Dan Slott, right?
Yeah.
Dan Slott started writing Spider-Man right after One More Day, which is when I quit reading Spider-Man, and I did not pick it back up again until Superior Spider-Man.
Same here.
I'm definitely going back and reading it now. But I think Superior Spider-Man is great. Basically, all you really need to know, spoilers on Spider-Man 700, which came out
2 years ago,
is...
dies.
To be honest, I don't really know... I'm going to have to bleep out that name. However...
I've been holding that in. I really wanted to say it for the episode of Game of Thrones just happened was dies, but...
I had to bleep that one out, too. You mean stop saying things.
Come on.
Stop saying fucking spoilers. I'm going to have to do so much. I don't care. No one will know who it is now.
Clark Kent is Superman.
That I'm not bleeping.
Darth Vader is Luke's father.
Gotten too lazy for those now. Anyway, I've given up. I'm tired. What you need to know is that, and I don't even really know all of the intricate details, but Doc Ock has supplanted himself in his consciousness into Peter's mind.
His body was dying, and so he switches bodies with Spider-Man.
Right.
And then his body dies with Spider-Man in it.
Right.
And he takes over Peter Parker's life.
Right. And he says in a very classic reference to a renowned Spider-Man story, Kraven's Last Hunt, that now that Peter Parker's out of the picture, he will become the superior Spider-Man. He's not going to be a villain with spider powers. He's going to do Spider-Man better than Peter ever could. And man, are the results awesome. This is one of the best things that's happened in Spider-Man's life for a long time. I'm still mad that Aunt May is not dead. She should be dead. I don't like her. However...
Well, they married her off. That's basically like being dead.
Yeah. Wow. All right.
Send your letters of complaint to Dan Didio, care of DC Comics.
Yeah. And anyway, I think it's great. I think everyone should read it. Stop looking at the monitor. Nothing's fucking wrong with the recording.
I'm just saying.
I looked at it.
No, it doesn't.
And I looked to you and went, it's fine.
Oh, I see.
It does this every week.
Do you know? Okay.
No, it does. It does. I've never actually seen it.
You know what's going on more than I do. Do you?
No,
you don't.
Yes,
okay, let's move
most
on.
Things
move on. It's fine. We should read it.
Okay, so Superior Spider-Man, very good comic.
31 issues, go.
I'd like to vote for the monitor.
Fuck you. I wish you guys couldn't see this anymore. You used to not be able to see this.
I'd like to vote for the monitor. Fuck, man.
What do you want to read, Joe?
I guess Superior Spider-Man. I've been wanting to read it. 32 is a lot, but
31.
31.
I misspoke.
31 makes it all the better. I mean, if it was 32, I'd be like,
also, they're short because they came out like every 2 weeks. They're not full 22 pages. They feel more like 18 pages per issue.
I'm not sure.
And they have a lot of splash pages and stuff. It's a fast read. I will say that 31 of this is shorter than 27 issues of Planetary.
I will probably read everything. I'll just download from Amazing Fantasy 15 on.
I'm saying don't read it because I want to know how you guys feel about it, like as an event outside of. I mean, Toby, I know, has already read a lot of that stuff, but I think that this is an argument to the fact of like, hey, you can have your crossovers happen or whatever, but like...
I actually just read Amazing Spider-Man number 700 and then jumped into Superior Spider-Man.
Yeah, if you read this as a contained thing, I still think it works. It avoids the events. It avoids a lot of like tropey modern comics crossover stuff. Like, I think that this is a good argument for why you should do a series like this.
Yeah, Superior Spider-Man.
Kate,
what are you voting for?
Spider-Man.
All right.
I'm also voting for Spider-Man.
Yeah, me too.
I'd like to vote for Spider-Man.
Podcast canceled. We all voted for the same thing. You guys didn't know that was a rule. Someone was supposed to vote for something else.
You're not allowed to vote for your own book. That can never happen.
I win. Regardless.
Fine. I'm changing my vote. I'm voting for whatever piece of crap Joe recommended.
Oh, me too. Fuck, Ty, podcast canceled. Toby, what are you doing? We've been doing this too long. We need to go.
Okay.
Superior Spider-Man next week. It comes out on the Wednesday that you're listening to this. Go to your local comic book stop and read it. Don't buy it. No, definitely buy it. It's a great series.
And read all the other things we recommended too, except the Hedge Knight.
I'm going to bring it back next year too.
Yeah, you should.
It's fine.
I
won't vote for it then.
I think it's good.
It is good.
You guys should read it.
It is absolutely
I actually was going to vote for it. Like this whole episode, I've been sitting here looking over at it, and I'm like, yeah, I want to vote for that. And then fucking Superior Spider-Man.
Sorry, I just decided to do that. I was like, wait, does the last one come out this week? Oh, then I have to do that.
You could wait for the trade.
I'm not waiting. I don't do that. It destroys.
Yeah, you could be nice to our audience for once, not be like, no, you have to go and find all 31 issues of this.
There's a significant amount of this in trade.
Yeah, actually there is.
So,
but you can't get the omnibus.
No, you can get the first 2 oversized hardcovers though, which contain, I think, like 20-something issues, like 24 issues.
That's not too bad.
That's not too bad.
However,
fuck you guys. Podcast over.
Yeah. See you later.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to View from the Gutters. I hope our recommendations have inspired you to go out and find some new comics you'll enjoy. Join us next time for a discussion of our selected title, but like every week, we encourage you to read all of the recommended books. In the meantime, please leave us an iTunes review. It really does help new listeners find the show. You can also like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube, and follow us on Twitter at ViewFRTHGutters. Feel free to email us at contact@viewfromthegutters.com. Please send us any questions, comments, or recommendations you might have. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel as we post new videos every week. And thanks again for listening. And as always, keep reading.